Chapter 494. Tang Hao looked at his son and did not know what to say for a moment. After all, they had grown up together. To a certain extent, the relationship between the two of them was much closer than that of his father. If Lin Feng had not helped him in the Pontiff's palace, his current situation would have been even worse. He might not have been able to walk out alive. All right, Lil San, I won't give up on finding Lin Feng. Tang Hao coughed twice. Now, I'm going to bring you to another place. The special training is over, and your martial soul has evolved. With your current strength, you need to obtain the true essence of killing intent in battle to be considered complete. Tang Sen let go of his hand and nodded lightly. Dad, where are we going? Follow me. It's time to leave this place. Tang Hao brought Tang Sen out of the forest where he had lived for 2 years and the waterfall. At the same time, Wang Feng, who had come from the extreme north, put on a new mask and a moon-white robe that was spotless. After walking out of the far north, Wang Feng still felt a little uncomfortable because the temperature in the far north was too low. Suddenly coming out of that kind of environment, he felt as if he had entered a furnace. Fortunately, with Wang Feng's current body, he adapted very quickly. Because Wang Feng did not know the location of the capital of massacres, he could only disguise himself and ask around. In the end, Wang Feng heard about the entrance to the capital of massacres from a down-and-out beggar in an unknown small city. According to the beggar's description, the capital of massacres was not called the capital of massacres, but the land of death. Basically, no soul master could come out alive from there. Even if they could, they would become a cripple, just like that beggar. It was somewhat different from Wang Feng's impression of the capital of massacres, because the beggar's soul power had been deprived, and he could not cultivate. The beggar also said that he was once a soul emperor, but because he accidentally entered the capital of massacres, he was crippled by a mysterious terror knight at the entrance before he could completely enter. The entrance was located in a nameless small town. It could also be some other location. Whether one could find it or not requires a certain amount of luck. However, Wang Feng quickly found the nameless small town. It was actually quite easy to find. With Wang Feng's current perception, he was extremely sensitive to all kinds of auras. Often, when one entered a city, one would be able to feel the atmosphere of the city. The entrance to the city of massacre was naturally not simple. This nameless town gave off an eerie feeling the moment they arrived. Everyone's eyes were cold, as if they were going to eat someone alive. If they were timid, they would have run away in fright. Among them, the place with the densest eerie aura was a tavern in the small town. Wang Feng sensed it clearly and directly walked in. Creak! The door of the tavern was like an old wooden door. Wang Feng gently pushed it open and a bone-chilling sharp sound came out. All of the soul cultivators in the tavern turned to look at Wang Feng. Although Wang Feng's current outfit was disguised, it was still very eye-catching. He wore a moon-white robe and a white mask that completely covered his eyes. He looked like a faceless person. That's right, in these days, Wang Feng had been relying purely on his body's perception of the world to easily travel. Right now, Wang Feng's eyes weren't even as useful as his body's perception of the world. This was the power of the karmic fire of the Red Lotus. Of course, his eyes were still very useful. In fact, Wang Feng already had a clear understanding of all the soul cultivators in the tavern before he even entered. He even knew their strength, how many people there were, their age, their strength, and the contents of their whispered conversations. He was completely aware of all of this. Most of the soul cultivators in the tavern had cold expressions. Even if they whispered occasionally, it was very soft. The entire tavern was very quiet. But Wang Feng could clearly feel that everyone here had at least dozens of lives in their hands. If it was in his previous life, they would be naked, murderous maniacs. The killing intent was very strong. At this moment, a waiter walked over. His clothes were like the tuxedo Wang Feng had seen in his previous life. "Excuse me, how can I help you?" The waiter asked indifferently. Although his words were very formal, his tone was extremely calm and there was no hint of respect. Wang Feng didn't beat around the bush and replied, "Where is the entrance?" Simple and straightforward, he went straight to the point. Hearing this, the waiter's expression changed slightly. He carefully sized up Wang Feng and didn't say anything. At this moment, The gazes of the soul cultivators in the tavern changed. Another one who wants to go in and die, a soul cultivator whispered with a smile. Obviously, they also knew about the city of massacre. They were no longer surprised by this situation. Soon, the waiter came in front of Wang Feng with a glass of wine and said, "Drink it." This wine was scarlet and emitted a faint, fishy smell. It was unknown what it was made of. Wang Feng smelled it slightly and knew that it should be blood. It wasn't ordinary blood, but blood formed by mixing many kinds of human blood. The waiter's meaning was very clear. He needed to drink this special wine to be qualified to enter the city of massacre. Thinking of this, Wang Feng's mind suddenly moved. The biggest characteristic of the city of massacre was that soul cultivators who entered couldn't use soul skills. It was equivalent to being sealed. It seemed that they could only rely on their physical fitness to fight. Without soul power, the combat strength of most soul cultivators would rapidly decline. Then, could the situation in the city of massacre be related to this glass of wine? Drinking this wine and entering the city of massacre would have such an effect? This thought flashed through his mind. Wang Feng felt that it shouldn't be possible. This was probably just a test. If you don't want to drink it, just tell me where the entrance is. Wang Feng replied. He didn't believe in these **T rules. The city of massacre was a place without rules. You can do whatever you want. Moreover, why would Wang Feng, who pursued delicious food, drink this kind of thing? Even in the extreme north, Wang Feng ate self-made ice cream or all kinds of delicious fruit juices. He also ate small animals that lived in the outer circle. The waiter, the rest of the soul cultivators roared with laughter. "Little turtle, you dare to come to such a place when your hair is not even fully grown? You don't even dare to drink a glass of human blood. Hurry up and go back to play with mud." The soul cultivator who chuckled just now couldn't help but laugh loudly. The rest of the soul cultivators also pointed at Wang Feng and laughed. Their laughter seemed to be venting the oppressive atmosphere. Their faces were incomparably hateful, like a mob that was about to commit violence. But at the next moment, Wang Feng didn't move at all. Two cold lights flashed out from an unknown part of his body. Swish, swish, swish. These cold lights seemed to have their own consciousness. With a speed that could cut through the air, they instantly slashed the necks of several soul cultivators. In the waiter's line of sight, he only saw a few cold lights flashing in the air. The soul cultivator who laughed at him died in an instant. Before he died, his eyes were still wide open, and the mocking smile on his face had not disappeared. He fell to the ground with a bang. End of this chapter. Chapter 495. The waiter sucked in a breath of cold air. There were no soul power undulations. These soul masters were all ferocious thugs. They were very strong and were at least rank 40. Some of them were even rank 50 soul kings. How could they be killed so easily? The white-robed man didn't even move an inch. It only took him 2 seconds. Soon enough, the waiter saw what the cold light was. It was 2 sharp blades that were slowly intertwined. At this moment, they were floating quietly beside the white-robed man. They were emitting a strange aura. Many of the remaining soul masters in the tavern fell silent and swallowed their saliva one after another. How'd he do that? The white-robed man didn't even move an inch. Even his soul power undulations were very weak. How'd he do that? Without making a single sound, all of these soul cultivators were killed. It was dazzling, cool, and ferocious. It was impossible to guard against. This was the mysterious underworld spike. He was using his mind to control objects. Wang Feng hadn't stopped cultivating for the past 2 years. He had no choice. Wang Feng had been trying his best to cultivate this dazzling method of killing enemies. He could only control small objects formed by the mysterious underworld spike at the start. Now, he could control these sharp blades that were about 40 centimeters long. Wang Feng could control them freely now. He could even kill enemies. Especially after the karmic fire of the Red Lotus, Wang Feng's soul power had been greatly enhanced. Wang Feng wasn't sure how much it had been enhanced. However, he was improving rapidly when he used the mysterious underworld spike to kill enemies. Wang Feng's spiritual intent was enough to make these 2 sharp blades stronger than when he threw them out. It was similar to using a real sword to kill enemies. Wang Feng didn't have to do anything to deal with weak enemies in the future. Wang Feng's method of using spiritual power to control the weapon to kill people could only be controlled within a range of 30 meters around him. If it was too far away, it would not work at all. Wang Feng felt that his spiritual power was very strong, but it wasn't easy to control. Simply put, he had a lot of spiritual power, but he didn't know how to use it. He could only rely on himself to figure it out. Wang Feng had carved out a path for himself. If he were to be compared to other cultivators, he would be a freak. He didn't need to learn any techniques to kill people. Therefore, when it came to using the mysterious dark spike to kill people, Wang Feng clearly felt that his spiritual power could increase the range, increase its power, and increase its control. However, he had no other way and could only fumble around on his own. Therefore, he could only control it within a range of about 30 meters. However, as long as it was within 30 meters, Wang Feng could use his mental power to drive the dark nether spike to form a sharp blade attack. It had a terrifying effect. Against low-level soul masters who didn't have any defenses, it was practically an instant kill. Wang Feng didn't even need to lift a finger to do it. This was the killing technique that Wang Feng dreamed of. So pretentious and cool. Wang Feng nodded in satisfaction as he watched the soul cultivators fall to the ground. Their throats had been slit almost instantly. His 2 years of bitter cultivation hadn't been in vain. In trance, Wang Feng looked at the stunned waiter and said indifferently again. His method of killing was simply unheard of. None of the soul cultivators present had ever seen such a terrifying method of killing. He was like an ancient soldier who saw a modern person shooting with a hot weapon. He couldn't understand it, but at the same time, he was frightened and shocked. The waiter swallowed hard and looked at the soul masters around him. None of the soul masters made a move. But soon, they were a group of villains after all. They wouldn't be frightened by such a situation. After regaining their senses, they released their martial souls and rushed towards Wang Feng. Obviously, these people were most likely from the City of Massacres. If they wanted to enter, they had to turn this place into an Azura field. Wang Feng slightly creased his eyebrows. His psychic power burst out, and several sharp black blades suddenly appeared on his body like shooting stars. They directly formed a black net in the tavern. All the soul masters were strangled to death in a few seconds. Wang Feng stood in the center quietly. Flowers of blood bloomed around him. In just a moment, the ground was covered in blood. The waiter was suffocating. One person, standing in the same place, easily dealt with more than 10 soul masters. In trance, Wang Feng looked at the waiter again. This time, the waiter didn't dare to say anything because there were several sharp blades on his body. He believed that as long as he didn't say the entrance, he would be killed by these black blades in the next moment. "It's here," the waiter said respectfully. As he spoke, he led Wang Feng to the back until they reached a bar counter. He seemed to have pressed some mechanism. The bar counter quickly changed, and a cave appeared on the ground. Wang Feng glanced at it and jumped down directly. Seeing Wang Feng leave, the waiter leaned on the bar counter and gasped for breath. He had received so many people who came to the City of Massacres, but it was the first time he met someone like the white-clothed, faceless man. It was too terrifying. His strength was too strange. The waiter stayed in a daze for a long time before he barely managed to catch his breath. After a few hours, the door suddenly opened again. The waiter didn't know why there were so many guests today. Looking at the door, he saw an old man and a young man. The young man was extremely handsome, but the old man was dressed in tattered clothes and was extremely sloppy. At this moment, he walked in with the young man and slowly said, "A cup of Bloody Mary." Halfway through his words, he suddenly froze. Because the scene in the tavern was really like hell. There were corpses everywhere. Everyone's eyes were wide open as if they didn't understand how they died. On the ground, there was a real river of blood. "Dad, there seems to be a fight here." Tang Sin looked around and instantly saw everyone's wounds clearly. They were all killed in one hit. Their throats were slit by a sharp blade. Tang Hao nodded slightly. With his strength, he could naturally see the situation. The waiter walked over and pointed at the cup of wine that was originally for Wang Feng. "This is it. Drink it." Tang Hao nodded slightly. Tang Xin did not hesitate and drank it directly. He only felt a little disgusted. The waiter pointed at the hole under the counter behind him. He was not in the mood to say anything else. He had not recovered from the shock just now. "By the way, can I ask what happened here just now?" Tang Xin suddenly asked. The waiter was stunned and said impatiently, "Don't ask what you shouldn't ask. Don't you know the rules? If you don't, then get lost." After saying that, he directly walked back and ignored the two people. At that moment, Tang Hao said slowly, "Kill him, Lil 3. Tang San was stunned. Without any hesitation, his blue-silver grass turned into a sharp spike and directly pierced through the waiter's chest. "I'll tell you now, Lil 3. Seeing that, Tang Hao said indifferently, "The place I'm bringing you to is called the City of Massacre. There are no rules in that place. The only rule is to kill everyone who can threaten you. When we reach the City of Massacre later, you have to become the champion of the annual fee. When the time comes, I'll naturally come and pick you up." Do you see the scene here? It's a powerful person who killed all those villains and entered the City of Massacre. Tang Hao pointed at the scene around him. Tang Xin nodded and said, "It doesn't seem to be an ordinary powerful person. To be able to kill so many soul cultivators so easily, and all of them were killed in one hit. They didn't seem to have any ability to resist at all. He should be very powerful." Soul cultivators were not idiots. Why would they stand there and let someone kill them? The situation at the scene was too strange. This powerful person who went in first, no matter how powerful he is, will be your enemy. You have to be careful. Tang Hao was silent for a moment, then let Tang San jump directly into the cave. End of chapter. Chapter 496. After Wang Feng jumped into the cave, he walked for a long distance in the tunnel. While walking, Wang Feng thought to himself, "It's so mysterious. It's just to make people fear this massacre city. Otherwise, there would be no need to arrange such a long, dark tunnel. Because in this kind of tunnel, normal soul masters would feel a little afraid of the dark and lonely environment. The longer they walked, the greater the fear." After walking for about 10 minutes, Wang Feng saw a large door. Pushing open the door, light slowly condensed. What entered his eyes were rows of black-armored warriors. The one in the center was riding a black warhorse, his entire body wrapped in armor. Behind these black-armored warriors was a pitch-black city. Above the city, there was a purple moon. Without a doubt, this city was the Massacre City. That moon was very magical, as if it was man-made, only a few hundred meters tall. Massacre City. Wang Feng looked at the black city in the distance. In fact, apart from the color, this city was not much different from the human cities Wang Feng had seen before. Walking in from the door, Wang Feng felt as if he had entered a special domain, especially under the illumination of the purple moon. His soul skill seemed to have been sealed. This also meant that he had entered the domain of the Massacre City. Although Wang Feng had been completely tempered by the Red Lotus, and even remembered a lot of knowledge from his previous life clearly. But Wang Feng did not read the second half of the original story, so he did not know much about the Massacre City, and even felt a little unfamiliar. Wang Feng basically did not read the second half of the original story. These black-armored warriors in front of him should be here to welcome outsiders who wanted to enter the Massacre City. Defeat us, and you will have the qualifications to enter the Massacre City. The leader of the black-armored warriors said in a low and cold voice. "You?" Wang Feng frowned slightly. "Who made this rule?" "I just made the rule." The black-armored warrior's cold voice was like a robot, as if he knew everything about the tavern. Wang Feng said with a smile. This Massacre City was really a place of indulgence. There were really no rules. Even these black-armored warriors who represented the law enforcers were the same. At this time, the black-armored knight led 100 black-armored warriors to surround Wang Feng. He didn't know what material the black-armored warrior's armor was made of, but it looked abnormally hard. Under the purple moonlight, it gave off a dark luster. Their entire bodies were covered in armor. Like 800 Spartan warriors, they howled and gathered around Wang Feng. Although he couldn't use soul skills in this place, he could use his soul power, and he could use his martial soul's original form. Logically speaking, the restriction on Wang Feng was not that great. Although he couldn't use soul skills, Wang Feng couldn't use third gear. But second gear was more than enough. Especially, his current physical strength had already reached an extremely terrifying level. Within a 30-meter radius, all soul masters below rank 60 cannot come close to me. However, Wang Feng did not panic at all. After Wang Feng reached rank 53 and obtained his 5th soul ring, he now had more than 50,000 mysterious underworld spikes. The Xianming armor also weighed over 20,000 kilograms. Furthermore, the dark nether spike had also been tempered by the karmic fire of the Red Lotus. Its lethality was simply terrifying. This was because the Xianming armor was an external soul bone. It was normally attached to the upper half of Wang Feng's body. As an external soul bone, it didn't affect the torso bone that was fused into his body. Wang Feng estimated that the mysterious underworld spike's poison might have been removed, but its damage was double. Not only could it harm his opponent's physical body, but it could also harm his opponent's spirit. However, the Xianming armor's abilities didn't change. It was only strengthened. As he saw the black-armored warriors charging towards him, Wang Feng shook his head. He stomped his foot gently. Instantly, countless black lights gathered behind Wang Feng's back and formed 5 sharp blades. 5 blades was the limit of what Wang Feng could control with his current spiritual power. Actually, Wang Feng could create more than 10 different forms of the mysterious underworld spike. However, it was more troublesome to use his spiritual power to control objects. He could only control 5 different sharp blades to attack. Defend! The black-armored knight shouted. The 100 black-armored warriors followed his orders. They formed groups of 2 and stood back to back. They raised their shields and wrapped themselves like dumplings. Can I defend? Wang Feng laughed. The mysterious underworld spike wasn't the same as his rank 40 mysterious underworld spike. Even if the black-armored warrior's armor was very tough, they couldn't block it. The 5 pitch-black sharp blades pierced through countless shields in the air. They were like 5 shooting stars as they shuttled through the 100-man formation. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. In less than 10 seconds, all the shields were pierced through. Combine! Wang Feng, who was still in a daze, continued to order. The 5 sharp blades were like mechanical pillars in midair. They formed a circular ring. The sharp blades were pointed outwards. They were like fiery wheels as they cut through all the black-armored warrior's armor. Fresh blood and flesh were exposed. Blood splattered everywhere. It bloomed all around Wang Feng. Boom, boom, boom. At this moment, a figure charged towards him from afar. It was the black-armored knight. His momentum was shocking. The lower half of his black-armored warhorse was like a sports car as he charged toward Wang Feng. Evidently, he wanted to attack Wang Feng directly. His opponent's strange attacking style was something he had never seen before. He clearly didn't use any soul skills, but he could release such a powerful long-range attack. After so many years in the City of Massacre, the black-armored knight had never seen such a powerful attack. Perhaps it was a soul bone. After all, one could use soul bones in the City of Massacre. But as long as the attack hit him, there shouldn't be any problems, right? Looking at the faceless man in white in front of him, the black-armored knight actually roared and increased his speed by a few degrees. Right at this moment, Wang Feng suddenly leaped lightly, and then he kicked out. Boom! The power of this kick caused an explosion in the air. The black-armored knight and his warhorse were sent flying as if the sports car had been hit by a high-speed train. His mind went blank at this moment. What tyrannical physical strength! Even with his momentum, he was still sent flying with a single kick from his opponent. He felt very clearly just now that the other party didn't even use soul power. In other words, he only used the purest of physical strength. The black-armored knight looked at his shattered armor and dead warhorse. Waves of pain came from his body as if telling him how terrifying the power of that kick was. At this moment, Wang Feng walked over. Am I qualified to enter the City of Massacre? The black-armored knight glanced at the faceless man in white. Seeing that the other party was still spotless and his white clothes were as white as snow, which seemed out of place in this dark world, he felt a little suffocated. He said in a hoarse voice, "Yes." After saying that, the black-armored knight threw a token to Wang Feng. "Everyone who passes the test will receive a token as proof. Bring it with you, and someone will come to the city gate to receive you." Wang Feng took the token and looked at it, only to find a few numbers on it. 95, 27. P.S. There are 4 or 5 more updates tonight. End of this chapter. Chapter 497. This number. It made Wang Feng feel a little emotional. After lamenting, Wang Feng ignored the black-armored knight and turned to walk towards the massacre city in the distance. The city gate was not big, and the distance was not far. Several black-armored soldiers stood at the gate, as well as a few men and women. They seemed to be waiting to welcome the newcomers. The one who received Wang Feng was not a woman, but a man. He was about 30 years old and wore a black robe. There were some scars on his face, but he was not ugly. "My name is Wu Ming. Welcome to the massacre city." The man's voice was a little hoarse and low. "In the next day, I will explain to you about the massacre city. During this time, you are safe." After saying that, he seemed to feel that Wang Feng's clothes were a little strange and kept looking at Wang Feng. Wang Feng's mask did not have a single gap, and he indeed looked like a faceless man. Coupled with the white clothes, it was too eye-catching, especially in this place. "Wu Ming." Wang Feng looked at the man in surprise. "Do you know 10,000 swords?" Wu Ming was obviously stunned, frowned, and shook his head. "I don't know what you are talking about. If it is a soul skill, I don't know any 10,000 swords. The massacre city does not allow the use of any soul skills. When we welcome newcomers, we use Wu Ming as a codename." Wang Feng laughed silently. "Then, why don't you briefly tell me about the massacre city?" Wang Feng followed Wu Ming into the city. This city did not look big, and the buildings and even the floors were very ordinary. It was not much different from an ordinary city. Only the people who lived here were very special. The massacre city is a domain left behind by a rank 100 soul master 1,000 years ago. I think you can feel that your soul skills can't be used in a place like this. Even if a titled Douluo came here, it would be the same. So if you want to live here, you can only rely on your own strength. Wu Ming continued to explain. "The domain is a little weak." Wang Feng shook his head. "There are no soul skills, but there is still soul power, martial soul, and soul bone. The soul power and soul bone should be completely sealed. Only then can it be considered the true massacre city. Relying on one's most primitive strength, they can kill." Wu Ming. Wu Ming resisted the urge to reprimand this white-clothed, faceless man and explained in a deep voice, "That's impossible. That is equivalent to sealing all the soul master's abilities. Isn't that good? Pursue the most primitive killing." Wu Ming could not help but glance at the faceless man in white. He vaguely felt that he was right. "Your massacre city's rule is that there are no rules, right?" Wang Feng continued. "As long as you want to do something, you can do it freely here. You don't even have to pay a price. I just saw that the people in the city even relied on free food to get it. However, one of them died immediately after eating it." Wang Feng's perception was too strong. After his entire body had been tempered into one, Wang Feng's perception of heaven and earth's energy allowed him to clearly perceive everything that was happening around him. Nothing that happened in the surroundings could escape Wang Feng's perception. There were lives being lost here at all times. According to Wu Ming, this place was protected by the great massacre king. Wang Feng felt that it should be the prison king. This massacre city was more like an unbreakable prison. It imprisoned countless criminals. Those who entered were safe, but also very dangerous. "It seems like you have a certain understanding of a massacre city." Wu Ming shook his head and said, "I know the general rules of the massacre city. However, one of the biggest rules is that you can enter, but you can't leave. If you want to escape, the law enforcement team in the city that has been given soul skills by the massacre king will kill you." Wang Feng nodded slightly. Even if he could not use soul skills, it would be very troublesome for him to face a titled Dalu who could use soul skills. If it was just an ordinary titled Dalu, it would be fine. If it was a rank 95 transcendent Dalu, his life would be in danger. But I think there's a way out. Wang Feng continued asking. This was the key point. Wang Feng was sure that the location of the check-in should be somewhere in the massacre city. After all, this was a city. Yes. Wu Ming glanced at Wang Feng. As long as you can rush out of the Hell Road, you can walk out of the massacre city, and every strong person who rushes out of the Hell Road will be crowned with the title of Massacre God. Hearing this, Wang Feng couldn't help but laugh. Massacre God? Crowned with a god's name. Aren't you afraid of being displeased by the god? No, because there is no such god as the Massacre God. Wang Feng. Thinking about it, it seemed that there really was no such god as the Massacre God in the Douluo world. There was the Azura God, but there was no Massacre God. Where's the Hell Road? Wang Feng continued asking. He really didn't know much about the Massacre City. At this moment, he naturally had to ask the novice village chief more. You want to go to the Hell Road? Wu Ming looked at Wang Feng and shook his head. Impossible. That's too difficult. Those who enter the Massacre City are mostly vicious criminals from the outside world. Because they can't survive, they enter the Massacre City and become the degenerates here. However, there are also more special soul masters who want to enter the Massacre City to train. I think you should belong to this group, right? As the guide of the newcomers, Wu Ming seemed to be very experienced. Wang Feng nodded. There was nothing to hide. Of course, he didn't come to the Massacre City to train. There were two purposes. One was to clock in. The second was to secretly cultivate the Dark Angel martial soul. With this place as nourishment, he could cultivate the true Dark Angel martial soul. Because in comparison, the current Dark Sky was a martial soul. Other than the martial soul possession to strengthen his own abilities, he didn't have many abilities. Previously, he had awakened and evolved a blood pattern, which allowed him to have an aura similar to a domain. Generally, a true domain soul skill would require at least a titled Dalu to have it. However, Wang Feng felt that it should be able to form a true domain, but the awakening and evolution was not thorough enough. Sometimes Wang Feng wondered if the 7 blood tattoos represented a kind of ability. When all 7 blood patterns were activated, 7 different domains would be superimposed. What kind of effect would there be? Therefore, this was the main reason why Wang Feng came to the Massacre City. Adventurers like you don't take our city of massacre seriously. Wu Ming shook his head and said, It's ridiculous to want to rush out of the Hell Road. Let's put it this way. If you want to enter the Hell Road, you have to become the champion of the massacre field. And to become the champion, you have to win 100 matches in a row. And in every battle, out of 10 people, only 1 can survive. This means that you have to kill at least 1,000 people. Take note, these 1,000 people are all soul masters. End of this chapter. Chapter 498. Hell, Slaughtering Field. This was the main theme of Slaughter City. 1 out of 10, it was that simple. The opponent in each battle would become stronger, fighting 100 battles in a row. If you fail in any of them, you will die. Wu Ming finally said. From the perspective of probability, the probability of surviving was about 1 out of 10 to the power of 100. All right, take me to Hell, Slaughtering Field. Wang Feng said. The atmosphere and energy in Slaughter City could be said to be the most suitable for Dark Angel martial spirit cultivation. At this moment, he felt that the Dark Angel martial spirit was faintly throbbing, but Wang Feng did not show it, nor did he need it. And Hell Slaughtering Field was probably more suitable. I advise you to stay in the outer city for a few days or learn a little about Hell Slaughtering Field before you choose. Nameless furrowed his brows. As he spoke, he pointed at the many bone-thin soul masters in the outer city. All the soul masters in the City of Massacres have to participate in the Slaughterhouse Tournament once a year. Only then will they have the right to survive in the City of Massacres. In addition, you have to contribute 2 cups of Bloody Mary every month, which is the wine you drank when you came in. But after many people learned about Hell Slaughtering Field, they would rather contribute their own blood for a long time then enter Hell Slaughtering Field. Slaughter City was also divided into the inner and outer city. The inner city was where the real powerhouses stayed. It was also the most chaotic place in Slaughter City. In comparison, the outer city was much worse. Most of the soul masters in the outer city did not have much strength and were unwilling to go to Hell Slaughtering Field, so they could only struggle to survive here. All right, I know. Please take me to Hell Slaughtering Field. Wu Ming took Wang Feng around the outer city, as if he wanted to let Wang Feng recognize the miserable situation in the outer city. But now that he saw Wang Feng was so fixed, Wu Ming did not persuade him anymore. Soon, Wu Ming brought Wang Feng into the inner city. Damn, it's really spicy. As soon as he entered, Wang Feng felt that the air was exuding a depraved smell. One after another, live erotic scenes, comparable to a Japanese movie, were staged in every corner of the inner city. There was also an incomparably strong smell of blood mixed in. Mournful cries, joyful moans, and unrestrained laughter formed a depraved human music. Even when Wang Feng came in and saw this chaotic scene, he felt as if his soul was being attacked. Vaguely, Wang Feng felt that the dark angel martial spirit in his consciousness was slightly stirred, and the 7 blood marks that were hidden in his body slowly emerged. It seemed to be absorbing the various auras and emotions emitted by the fallen. This was especially true for the first glowing blood vein. It was getting brighter and brighter. This made Wang Feng quite happy. It seemed that he was right. This place was really suitable for the awakening of the dark angel martial spirit. What dark angel? She's more like a fallen angel. Wang Fengxin couldn't help but think. Nameless looked at the dazed Wang Feng and thought to himself, this newcomer is probably scared silly, right? The inner city could be said to be a completely devoid of humanity. Any soul cultivator who entered the city of massacres and stepped into the inner city for the first time would feel their stomach churn from the impact of this beast-like world. Some of them would even feel their minds weaken. Nameless led Wang Feng to walk unhurriedly, as if he wanted Wang Feng to see the inner city clearly so that he could recognize reality. Logically speaking, these indescribable scenes, accompanied by the thick smell of blood in the air, could indeed stimulate a soul cultivator's mind to a great extent. Those with weaker mental strength might die on the spot. This was because this kind of scene would cause all kinds of negative emotions in the soul cultivator's body, such as hostility, killing intent, desire. These emotions would cause the soul cultivator to lose himself. A slightly better outcome would be nothing more than becoming one of these fallen. After all, if they couldn't resist, they would have no choice but to join them. After walking around, Nameless brought Wang Feng to a special building. At this moment, Wang Feng, who had been silent, finally spoke. What a good place. Wang Feng looked at this place with admiration. Unfortunately, his expression was completely covered by the mask, and Nameless couldn't see it. But when he heard Wang Feng's words, he was stunned. Good place? Nameless looked at the white-clothed, faceless man with a blank face. He had received so many newcomers, but this was the first one who said such words after seeing the inner city. Strange. This white-clothed, faceless man was really strange. Good place? At this moment, a chuckle came from the side. Wang Feng turned around and happened to see a young girl in a black veil. She was bringing a handsome young man to this place. At this young man, could he be Tang San? Wang Feng looked at the handsome, blue-haired young man. With his perception, he could clearly feel that this young man's aura was very similar to Little Three's. But the change was indeed great, because Little Three's appearance could only be said to be average before. It seemed that he had become so handsome after awakening the blue-silver Emperor martial soul. The laughter came from the girl in a black veil next to the young man. She was naturally also a new guide and happened to be in charge of receiving Little Three. I didn't expect to meet him here. Wang Feng muttered. It seems that he's become a lot stronger. His soul power has also reached rank 53, close to rank 54. He's even higher than me. Not bad, not bad. With the perception soul skill in his skull at this time, coupled with the perception ability of his body at this time, not to mention Tang San. Even if Tang Hao was in front of him, Wang Feng could also sense it clearly. On the other side, Tang San's heart skipped a beat. This person, the mask on his face, doesn't even show his eyes. Why do I feel like I've been completely seen through? This feeling made Tang San frown slightly. He had never felt this way after the blue-silver grass became the blue-silver Emperor Martial Soul. Do you see? The girl in a black veil pointed at Wang Feng and said to Tang San, 9528, this person is very likely to be your predecessor. But since you insist on coming here, I can only say that you are too naive. The Hell Slaughterhouse is not so easy to win, and the inner city is not so easy to stay in. Based on what he said just now, once the novice protection period is over, many people will assassinate him. Tang San's eyes turned cold. Along the way, the girl in a black veil had told him about the inner city. Because there were no rules in the inner city, even if you were assassinated on the spot, you could only blame yourself for being weak. As the emissary of the King of Massacre, the girl in a black veil was the new guide and could protect the newcomers for a day. Wang Feng. Although Wang Feng knew that he would encounter Little Three in the slaughterhouse, he didn't expect to encounter them in such a situation. Ha ha ha! I didn't expect that 2 more fledglings would come to our inner city. They even said that this is a good place. Sure enough, several gazes fell directly on Wang Feng, and all kinds of laughter sounded. End of chapter. Chapter 499. One of the bald men even let out a disdainful sneer. His gaze fell on Wang Feng, and his eyes were filled with killing intent. The black-veiled girl pointed at the bald man and said in a low voice, "This person is very strong. If that 9527 didn't have a novice protector, she might have been killed by this person. He has already won 10 matches in the Hell Slaughterhouse." In the City of Massacre, because there were no soul skills, the strength of a soul master depended on how many matches he won in the Hell Slaughterhouse. Because every victory would allow one to live for 1 more year in the City of Massacre, 10 victories was a very high number. Tang San looked at the bald man and thought, this person should be a 6-ringed soul emperor. Although he doesn't have any soul skills, he should have a beast martial soul or something. His physical fitness is very strong. No wonder he can win 10 matches. At this time, a few screams suddenly came from afar. The screams attracted the attention of many people. They couldn't help but look over. Wang Feng also looked over and saw that on the ground far away, a woman was surrounded by several burly men with large arms and large waists. They were actually trying to kill her on the street. Do you see that? The black-veiled girl pointed at the woman and said, after the Hell Slaughterhouse, even if you win, you'll be surrounded and killed by those with evil intentions. You have to know that after the Hell Slaughterhouse, you are all very weak. Once you're surrounded and killed at this time, how dangerous would it be? This woman is the most famous Hell emissary in our City of Massacre recently. She has already won 21 matches in a row in the Hell Slaughterhouse. Within a year, she has won 21 matches. After almost every victory, she would be surrounded and killed. This time, the few people who surrounded her are not weak. They are all experts who have maintained more than 10 victories. The black-veiled girl introduced the woman to Tang San. Wu Ming also introduced the woman to Wang Feng. The woman who was besieged had her long hair tied behind her back, revealing a beautiful face without makeup. There was a hint of seductiveness. The woman's perfect figure was vividly displayed by her black clothes. Her figure was only second to Zhu Zhuqing's figure that Wang Feng had seen. Wang Feng recognized who this woman was at a glance. Hulaina. Wang Feng thought, indeed, she's here too. Xingxing's aura is still there, and it's still stable. Looks like she's been doing well these 2 years. That's right, this woman was indeed Hulaina. Hulaina, who had her charm broken by Wang Feng's whistle and suffered a backlash. 2 years had passed, and Hulaina's growth was no less than Tang San's. Her soul power was already close to rank 58. It was an increase of almost 5 levels, although it could not be compared to Tang San, who had leveled up 10 times in 2 years. However, Hulaina had been at rank 53 2 years ago. After rank 50, her soul power increased very slowly. It was not easy for Hulaina to have such an improvement. After all, his martial spirit has mutated. Wang Feng shook his head. Wang Feng heaved a sigh of relief after learning that Star was still in Hulaina's soul bone. Perhaps sensing something, Hulaina also glanced at Wang Feng. Just now, the star consciousness in Hulaina's skull suddenly moved, as if it had sensed something. However, after seeing Wang Feng, Hulaina frowned slightly. This person was dressed so strangely. The mask completely covered his eyes, and nothing could be seen. Hulaina shook her head slightly, suddenly looked to the other side, and frowned slightly again. Tang San's appearance had changed a lot, but it was not untraceable. However, the plot of the Pope's palace had changed too much, and Hulaina's impression of Tang San was not as strong as in the original work. The two had only fought once in the team battle, and Hulaina had almost turned the tables. However, in the end, Tang San used the 8th spider spear fragment to forcefully injure a few people. And in that match, Hulaina and the other two were very unconvinced, because they had been seriously injured by Wang Feng in the morning, and even after some healing, they had barely recovered a little. But at that time, Evil Moon and Yin were unable to use their 10,000-year soul skills. Therefore, although Shrek's team won that match, the 3 members of the Golden Generation were very unconvinced. In fact, in Wang Feng's estimation of that match, or in Tang San's thinking after the match, it was indeed so. If the 3 members of the Golden Generation were not injured, with the strength of the 3 members of the Golden Generation at that time, Shrek really wouldn't have had a chance to win. Therefore, Hulaina came to the City of Massacre to cultivate and become stronger to a greater extent because of the 9-to-1 opening at that time. Later, during the battle at the Pope's Palace, Hulaina was directly knocked out by BB Dawn. Although she did not see the battle, she heard about it later. At that time, she felt even more incredible. After all, Wang Feng had fought 2 titled Douluo in the Pope's Palace, causing the injuries of those 2 titled Douluo to not recover. This kind of battle record was really too amazing. The unimaginable strength of the 9-to-1 opening made the 3 members of the Golden Generation feel a little desperate. Hulaina came to the City of Massacre purely to make herself stronger. She didn't even think about surpassing and defeating the 9-to-1 opening, because the distance was too big. It was simply not something that could be made up for by cultivation. Even teacher BB Dawn said that a person like the 9-to-1 opening might only appear once in a few thousand years on the continent. But unfortunately, he was not from the Martial Spirit Palace, so he could only fall. There was no possibility of survival. The Martial Spirit Palace would not tolerate such a genius to grow up. A genius like the 9-to-1 opening. Once he grows up, his influence will be greater than the 2 empires and the 7 great sects. Hulaina still remembered what her teacher said when she was about to leave the Pope's palace. Laina, don't think about surpassing such a person, because it's meaningless. What we need to think about is to kill him. Now that we have succeeded, the next one is Tang San. It was precisely because of this that Hulaina came to the City of Massacre to cultivate, just to make herself stronger. This kind of purest willpower was actually the most precious, not because of someone or something, just to become stronger. Hulaina actually had another goal, and that was to revive the consciousness of the star in her skull. Of course, this idea was hidden in the deepest part of her heart. The reason for this idea was that Hulaina had already regarded the star as the most intimate existence. After all, Hulaina would not share many words with BB Dawn, but she would choose to share them with the star, because the star in her skull was actually equivalent to the ring Grandpa. After a long time, naturally their relationship was extremely deep, especially in the years since she came to the City of Massacre. Hulaina's heart had accumulated a lot of negative emotions at the beginning. After all, living in a place like the inner city for a long time was really torturous to the willpower of a soul master. Hulaina had simple exchanges with the star in her skull every day. In this year, Hulaina found that not only had her spiritual power improved tremendously, but even her fighting had become incomparably smooth. Into this chapter. Chapter 500. With these reasons, Hulaina could be said to be the closest to Xing Xing. After all, Xing Xing had accompanied her in Massacre City for a year and helped her resolve her mental stress every day. Anyone would be close to Xing Xing. With all these reasons added up, Hulaina had the idea of reviving Xing Xing's consciousness and truly awakening it. But it was just an idea. At this moment, her short blade was like a silver light falling blade. It quickly brought about bursts of blood around the burly men. A moment later, the burly men who were surrounding her were all killed on the spot. The short battle caused Hulaina's cheeks to be slightly stained with blood. There was also a demonic beauty. At this moment, an extremely dangerous feeling rose in Hulaina's heart. Several sharp blades suddenly appeared on the body of the white-clothed, faceless man. They floated up gently. It was extremely strange. The next moment, those sharp blades cut through the void with a whoosh and attacked Hulaina directly. Seeing this, Hulaina was shocked. What kind of ability was this? Killing people in the air with a weapon? This method was too shocking. So fast, Tang San's expression froze, and he was also shocked, because he had never seen such a method before. In Tang San's previous life, he knew that some martial arts masters could use flying leaves to hurt people. Some even had the ability to control objects. They could grab all kinds of objects in the air to defend against enemies. When one cultivated the mysterious jade hands to a high level, they could also do this. But it was far from being so exaggerated, because even the mysterious jade hands required the use of the mysterious heaven skill and various hand gestures to barely be able to do it. But now, several sharp blades suddenly rose from the body of the white-clothed, faceless man and attacked Hulaina at a terrifying speed. There were almost no soul power fluctuations. He didn't even move. Was this purely spiritual control? Thinking of this, Tang San was shocked. In his previous life, wasn't it said that only those who had reached the innate stage of martial arts and the realm of 3 flowers at one's prominence could use it? Tang San boasted that his spiritual power had reached a terrifying level, comparable to the spiritual power of a soul Douluo. However, it was impossible for him to control objects with his mind. That was a problem of 2 completely different worlds. He could only do it with the help of the Tang sect's martial arts techniques, but it was impossible for him to achieve such a terrifying speed. Hulaina almost wanted to dodge, but it was too late. Because it was the first time she had seen this kind of attack, her reaction was half a beat slower. However, those sharp blades whistled past her cheeks, and the biting cold wind even cut off a few strands of her fluttering hair. Immediately after, a miserable cry came from behind Hulaina. Hulaina suddenly woke up and turned around, only to see a bald man, like a ghost, pouncing towards her, but was instantly dismembered by those sharp blades. Like a pig being slaughtered, it fell to the ground, splashing blood everywhere. The scene was extremely bloody. The numerous sharp blades were like secret machines. Their lethality was simply astonishing. Only then did Hulaina heave a sigh of relief. She thought to herself, so this faceless man wanted to kill the person who ambushed me. It was only because the other party was behind him that he had the misconception that the other party was going to attack him. This bald man was really the one who had sneered at him with killing intent in his eyes just now. The sharp blades were not stained with the slightest bit of blood. They returned to Wang Feng's body and disappeared. In an instant, the scene fell silent, especially the girl in black next to Tang San. She looked at Wang Feng with a shocked face. This is too strong. No matter what, the bald man was someone who had won 10 battles in the slaughterhouse. Yet, this faceless man had killed him without even lifting a finger. Thinking of what she had said just now, the girl in black suddenly felt that her face was swollen. With this kind of strength, he was indeed qualified to say such words. The slaughterhouse was a place where strength mattered, not a place where how long you had stayed. Occasionally, there would be a few special existences among the newcomers. This 95-27 is not simple. The girl in black said, In the future, he will definitely become a great person in the slaughterhouse. You must learn from him. Tang-san. You didn't say that just now, right? Isn't a lesson from the past? How can you change so quickly? Tang-san was speechless for a while, but he also understood that the strength of this faceless man was indeed very unusual. Moreover, Tang-san also saw that the person who entered the slaughterhouse before him should be the one who used incomparably fierce attacks to kill those soul masters in the tavern. Even the 100 black-armored soldiers behind him were all killed by him. Tang-san followed him all the way, so he naturally knew what happened later. Wait, mask, white robe. Could it be that there is such a familiar attack method? Then he is... Brother Feng? Tang-san was shocked. Brother Feng liked to put on a mask and robe the most, then use his name to hide his identity. Tang-san knew something. Thanos, Thor, Monster Captain, 9-1 Open. Although the names were strange, Brother Feng indeed liked to disguise himself as various identities. Tang-san suddenly looked at the pile of rubble. Although it looked a little disgusting, he frowned slightly. When Brother Feng transformed into 9-1 Open, the soul bone he used was slightly similar to this faceless man, but it was much worse than the faceless man's current attack method, and there was no poison on the faceless man's blade. Tang-san remembered the scene when he was attacked on the way to Martial Spirit City. 9-1 Open, who was also Brother Feng, used the soul bone to kill people when they were attacked. It contained a strong, corrosive poison, and once one was hit, they would quickly turn into corpse water. It shouldn't be Brother Feng. Tang-san shook his head. There is no poison on the faceless man's soul bone, and this method of using the mind to control objects is too mysterious. It's like the difference between heaven and earth with Brother Feng's method of using the soul bone. It's just a little similar. After many thoughts in his mind, Tang-san rejected his own idea. Moreover, if Brother Feng is still alive, why would he come to the slaughterhouse? Tang-san glanced at the faceless man in white vigilantly. At that time, the bald man had died. Hulaina quickly reacted, then walked in front of Wang Feng and said faintly, "Thank you. You should be new here, right? I don't know if I can." "No, get lost." Hulaina was taken aback. She had been ambushed just now. Although it wasn't because of her, it was because the bald man had spoken rudely and even had killing intent towards the faceless man. Coincidentally, they had killed him as well. However, it was true that they had indirectly helped her this time, so it shouldn't be a problem for her to express her gratitude, right? And ask him for his name, right? Unexpectedly at this time, the faceless man said coldly, "Psycho, why are you thanking me for no reason?" Hulaina, after the faceless man finished speaking, he walked toward the Hell Slaughterhouse not far away. P.S. Today's update, this chapter ends. Chapter 501. The chaos in the inner city was something Wang Feng did not expect before. Sometimes, just a single strand of killing intent was enough to make people go berserk. What a strange person. Hulaina shook her head. Looking at the faceless man's back, she had a strange feeling. The other party's behavior was actually very normal in this place, because everyone was vigilant. No one was kind to you. So seeing the other party do this, Hulaina actually admired him. She thought the other party was a newcomer, but she didn't expect him to be so fierce and ruthless, and also so vigilant, not giving anyone any chance at all. This kind of person was often extremely difficult to deal with in the inner city. Moreover, he shouldn't be interested in women. Hulaina thought to herself. With her appearance, who knew how many people coveted her? To put it bluntly, as long as she nodded slightly, there would be a bunch of men with impure intentions coming to her. Of course, Hulaina didn't think that the other party was doing this deliberately, playing hard to get, because there was no need at all in this inhumane place. That kind of low-level method was meaningless. In a place like the inner city, if a man wanted to attract a woman, he could only go to the hell-killing field. I hope I don't meet him. Hulaina suddenly glanced at Tang-san again, and then walked away on her own. With the strength of the white-clothed, faceless man, not to mention Hulaina, even Tang-san felt that it was extremely troublesome. Naturally, he was also secretly vigilant, hoping not to meet him easily. After all, once they met, it would be a matter of life and death. The hell-killing field is ahead. Nameless took Wang Feng to a building similar to the Great Soul Arena. After the performance just now, Nameless didn't dare to underestimate Wang Feng now. It was also because Nameless didn't see the scene of Wang Feng's battle with the Black Armored Knight before. Otherwise, he would have respectfully brought Wang Feng to the hell-killing field. There are no specific rules here. Nameless continued. Take your token and sign up directly, and then wait for the competition to start. There are 10 people in each competition. You just need to survive. Except for not using soul skills, you can use any means. Wang Feng nodded slightly. He found that after killing the bald man just now, the blood pattern of the dark angel martial spirit moved slightly, as if it was a little brighter. It seemed that killing people here could stimulate the dark angel martial soul to a greater extent. However, there was also the impact of some negative emotions. But now, Wang Feng's body was spotless and his soul was incomparably pure. He was not affected by these negative emotions at all. He disappeared in an instant. Of course, you can also go in and watch the battle, and the qualification to watch the battle requires a cup of Bloody Mary. Wu Ming pointed at a man who was holding a cup of Bloody Mary. It could be the enemy's or your own. It's fine as long as you have it. The Slaughter City seemed to be in desperate need of fresh blood. Bloody Marys seemed to have become a special currency here. After all, the contribution of 2 cups per month would allow them to survive in Slaughter City. This thing was still very precious. Wang Feng did not intend to spectate the battle. Instead, he directly entered the competition. The competition went very smoothly. In the first match, Wang Feng sensed that the strength of these people was not at the same level. Many of them had forced themselves to come to this match. Perhaps they didn't want to contribute Bloody Mary anymore and wanted to fight in the slaughterhouse. There were also some who were participating in the competition for the first time. The rest of the people had won 5 matches or less. This was also the rule of the competition. Among the 10 people, the difference between the weakest and the strongest was about 5 matches. It would not exceed this number. This was to prevent people who had too many victories from being matched with people who did not participate in a single match. That would be completely meaningless. Therefore, not only in the first match, but also in the following matches in the following month, Wang Feng met opponents with less than 20 victories. They were far inferior to the bald man he had killed before. The competition was completely a one-sided slaughter. In the following month, Wang Feng did not make a move in the entire competition. Once the mysterious underworld spike was used, these thugs who couldn't even use soul skills were far inferior to the black-armored warriors. Naturally, they were directly slaughtered. The battle ended very quickly. However, the City of Slaughter was still the City of Slaughter. Who knew how many vicious and evil people were gathered here? Their numbers were uncountable. Seeing how powerful Wang Feng was, they were not afraid at all. Instead, after the competition ended, they crazily ambushed and assassinated Wang Feng. It was endless. It was because of this that Wang Feng would lose at least 2 digits of lives every day. It was very terrifying. Wang Feng had never killed so many people before. Especially after the second day, Wang Feng was besieged by almost 30 people. Logically speaking, it was really exaggerated. Fortunately, the strength of Wang Feng's mysterious underworld spike was displayed at this time. If Wang Feng were to kill these people himself, he would probably be stained with blood and have to change his clothes many times every day. But with the mysterious underworld spike, all lives within 30 meters were under his control. Don't even think about getting close to me. After killing so many people, Wang Feng didn't feel anything. On the first day, there was a slight fluctuation. But after thinking about it, he didn't know how many people here had to bear to come here. Killing them was simply getting rid of evil. Wang Feng didn't feel embarrassed at all. Not long after, Wang Feng felt the second blood pattern of his dark angel martial soul faintly light up on his body. It seemed like it was about to awaken. Wang Feng realized that every time the blood pattern appeared, it would greatly increase his overall strength. Other than the domain-like aura, his body's attributes were at least twice as strong. The black wings on his back also had the ability to fly. Every pair of wings corresponded to a blood pattern. But after the blood pattern was activated, the black wings would also light up. There were many strange symbols on the pitch-black energy wings. Because the massacre capital was special, it could also conceal the aura of the dark angel martial soul. Therefore, Wang Feng wasn't worried that the Qianren Xue would sense it. When he was alone, Wang Feng would secretly use it to check the situation. Just like that, Wang Feng cultivated the dark angel martial soul in the infernal slaughterhouse. For him, who had already endured the lonely training in the extreme north, the days in the infernal slaughterhouse were relatively easy, because he didn't need to do anything and didn't need to expose his strength. He could easily become stronger. This was a place that Wang Feng dreamed of. On the other side, Wang Feng would occasionally check on Little Three's situation. He wasn't worried. After all, Little Three was the protagonist of the original work. His life in the massacre capital was basically smooth sailing. However, the battles in the infernal slaughterhouse made Little Three more calm, and his temperament inclined towards darkness. Clearly, under such a high intensity of killing, his mind was somewhat tense, which affected his temperament. End of chapter. Chapter 502. This couldn't be helped. Staying in a place like the City of Massacres for too long would cause one to be tainted with karma. It was a form of torture to one's mind and soul. Unlike Wang Feng, whose entire body had been tempered by the karmic fire of the Red Lotus, his thoughts were clear and unaffected. Wang Feng had only come to the City of Massacres after he had tempered his brain and sternum. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to take it if he continued killing like this. It might cause some problems to his mind. Other than that, Wang Feng also saw Hulaina a few times. However, other than the first day, Wang Feng didn't meet Hulaina. Hulaina won a lot of matches in the slaughterhouse, so it was impossible for her to meet Wang Feng. Wang Feng didn't compete every day. Instead, he chose to cultivate slowly, one step at a time. When he had nothing to do, he would go out of the city for a stroll. He could even watch some live porn for free. In fact, in terms of danger, the City of Massacres wasn't as dangerous as the extreme north to Wang Feng. This was because he couldn't use soul skills here. Wang Feng's soul skills were only a part of his strength. In comparison, the extreme north, especially the inner circle, was much more dangerous. However, the killing wasn't as intense as the City of Massacres. Slowly, a year passed. A year passed very quickly in the City of Massacres. However, it was a turning point for Wang Feng's dark angel martial soul. In a year, his dark angel martial soul had awakened 3 blood traces. On average, he would awaken 1 blood trace every 4 months. Until now, he had awakened a total of 4 blood traces. However, Wang Feng hadn't tested it yet, and he didn't know what kind of power it had. He didn't have a chance because the mysterious underworld spike had resolved everything. In this year, he went to the slaughterhouse about 6 times a month on average. In total, there were 72 matches. And in these 72 matches, Wang Feng didn't meet any enemy that could threaten him. The reason was simple. It was because Wang Feng's control of the mysterious underworld spike was increasing. In other words, Wang Feng spent most of his time in the City of Massacres cultivating the mysterious underworld spike apart from training his dark angel martial soul. In order to be able to fly on a sword one day, Wang Feng didn't hesitate to cultivate the mysterious underworld spike. Even his soul power had only increased by 2 ranks, reaching rank 55. The Massacre City's energy also leaned towards darkness. It needed to be purified by the meteoric tear before Wang Feng could absorb it. However, with Wang Feng's current cultivation speed, it was truly fast. In the past year, he had not meditated at all. He had merely been cultivating, allowing the energy of heaven and earth to be automatically absorbed into his body, and he had already advanced by 2 levels. If Wang Feng were to cultivate with all his might, it would at least double, or even more. This was the benefit of completing the full body tempering. The higher the level, the more obvious the benefits would be. Currently, Wang Feng's body was like a treasure trove. The more he dug, the more surprises he would find. In the 72 battles, the strongest person Wang Feng had met was a person who cultivated a darkness-attributed tool, martial spirit. Unfortunately, his level wasn't high. He was only around level 60. In a place like the Massacre City, Wang Feng suspected that if he stayed for too long, his martial spirit would also lean towards the darkness attribute and undergo some sort of mutation. Because if there was such a mutation, then he would be like a fish in water in the city of slaughter. His opponent, who possessed a darkness-type martial soul, was similar to this. His tool martial spirit was a pair of Hylian blades. They were invisible and were extremely effective in killing people. Compared to Wang Feng's mysterious underworld spike, they were much weaker. Compared to the mysterious underworld spike, which couldn't be used to kill people, they were also much weaker. Although the Hylian blades could be invisible, they still had soul power undulations. After all, they were martial spirits. The mysterious underworld spike could be used to kill people by Wang Feng's spiritual power. It was very difficult to sense, so it was very effective against low-level soul masters. Even so, this Hylian blade martial spirit relied on the uniqueness of his martial spirit to win more than 40 battles in the Massacre City. In the end, he was killed by Wang Feng. One had to know that there were at least a few soul sages who died at the hands of this Hylian blade martial spirit. One could only imagine how many people this Hylian blade martial spirit had killed with his martial spirit. This person was also known as the Hylian blade martial spirit. He was extremely famous in the Massacre City. Other than that, Wang Feng didn't have much of an impression of his other opponents. On the contrary, Wang Feng had more of an impression of being surrounded and assassinated. Wang Feng remembered that after he finished participating in a tournament, he was surrounded by almost 300 people because of his growing reputation. This was extremely rare in the inner city. That day, the outside of the Massacre City was stained with blood. The streets were filled with corpses and rivers of blood. But this wasn't the scariest thing. The scariest thing was that Wang Feng's body wasn't stained with blood. There weren't many corpses in a 50-meter radius around him. It was as if he was in a vacuum. The mysterious underworld spikes formed a dozen or so sharp blades that covered an area of 50 meters around them. Any soul cultivator that entered this area would be killed mercilessly. His moon-white robes were spotlessly clean on the streets that were like blooming hell. It was especially dazzling. All of the soul masters who saw this scene were completely stunned. That battle attracted a lot of people because it was too loud. Among them were Hulaina, Tang San, the envoy sent by the King of Massacre, and many other powerful soul masters who had won more than 50 battles. Almost all of them watched the encirclement in a daze. The encirclement process was actually very simple and boring. Wang Feng stood quietly in the middle of the street as the crowd outside swarmed toward him. The 10 sharp blades were like a harvester, reaping everyone's lives. This continued for half an hour. Within a 50-meter radius, countless corpses were piled up. Even if there were some fish that escaped the net and managed to rush to Wang Feng's side, they were like zombies walking. They stumbled and fell to the ground in the end. Then, Wang Feng calmly walked out from the surrounding sea of corpses. He was unscathed, and his white robes were otherworldly. It was such a simple massacre, but it shocked countless people to the core, because the contrast was too strong. More than 300 people died, but this white-clothed, faceless man didn't suffer any injuries. There wasn't even a drop of blood on his body. In a crimson sea of corpses, that white-clothed man casually reaped everyone's lives. None of the spectators at the scene could do this. They were all deeply shocked. Even Tang San didn't think he could do this. Tang San was once surrounded by 100 people and suffered many injuries. He used countless hidden weapons before he walked out from the pile of corpses. He rested for 2 days before he recovered. After this encirclement, Wang Feng gained another title in the inner city, White-Clothed Death God. There are also people who called him the Faceless Death God. Being crowned with the title of God was not given by the city of Massacre. It was just a nickname in the inner city, but it was enough to prove how terrifying he was. End of this chapter. Chapter 503. This was because Wang Feng was like the Grim Reaper in every match or encirclement, quietly harvesting lives without any exceptions. And the 60 meters around Wang Feng was also known as the White-Clothed Hell. In the 72 matches, no one was able to break through the White-Clothed Hell and truly attack Wang Feng. Thus, in the Hell Slaughterhouse, as this year passed, there was a saying, as long as one could pass through the White-Clothed Hell, they would be able to defeat the White-Clothed Grim Reaper. In this year, Wang Feng actually had a very comfortable time. It was even more comfortable than when he was in the extreme north. Soul masters who couldn't use soul skills were simply as easy as chopping vegetables for him. Didn't I train so hard just to torture my enemies? Didn't I just want to pursue the pleasure of crushing my opponents? Wang Fengxian thought, the key is that I can still train at the same time. Especially in the capital of massacre, there was no burden. There was basically no need for any battle of wits, because there was no chance for a battle of wits. Without soul skills, he could only rely on normal attacks and various killing techniques. However, even after a year of killing, Wang Feng's aura still didn't change much. Logically speaking, after killing so many people, going through so many matches, and staying in the inner city for a long time, he would be infected with all kinds of killing intent and evil aura. His temperament would also become colder and more bloodthirsty. But Wang Feng didn't change at all. He was dressed in white, as if he was a lonely guest, and seemed incompatible with the capital of massacre. This was also one of the reasons why Wang Feng was called the White-Clothed Grim Reaper. In legends, the Grim Reaper mostly wore a black robe, looking cold and lonely, exuding the aura of death. The White-Clothed Grim Reaper was different. He just stood there, untainted, like a god in the world, but countless people in the inner city were infatuated with him. That elegant posture, that terrifying strength, that arrogant temperament, it was simply like a strong drug, stimulating countless women in the inner city. In this inner city world filled with fallen people, the White-Clothed Grim Reaper was too unique. Such a strange expert had never appeared in the capital of massacre. But Wang Feng didn't know the reason. The killing intent and evil aura he was infected with were all absorbed by the dark angel martial soul. Coupled with his current physique, he wouldn't be affected by the massacre city at all. As long as the dark angel martial soul didn't possess him, he wouldn't experience any changes. On this day, Wang Feng went out again. With his strength and status, he naturally lived in an extremely good house. However, there were still two mysterious underworld spikes hanging outside the door, guarding it. It couldn't be helped. There were too many people who sent themselves to their deaths every day, especially at night. Many women in the inner city wanted to get close to Wang Feng and spend the night with him, the god of death in white. In the beginning, when night fell, they all stood outside Wang Feng's room and looked up. Some even directly rushed in. Wang Feng didn't even have a moment of peace while he was cultivating. Then, he controlled the sharp blade formed by the mysterious underworld spike and placed it outside the door. Whoever dared to take a step forward would die immediately. What kind of joke was this? Even among these women, there might be some who were relatively clean. But was Wang Feng that kind of person? Obviously not. Therefore, he guarded the two Xianming spikes outside the door as a deterrent. Whoever came would die. Who cares if you're a man or a woman? After walking out of the door, the smell of decay and depravity in the inner city didn't disappear. The visitors from the massacre city didn't decrease. Because of this, because the various crimes on the continent wouldn't stop. Familiar sounds of pleasure came to his ears. Wang Feng smiled, although the mask covered his eyes and he couldn't see clearly. However, he could clearly sense the live sex palace that was playing out every day. It was no different from seeing with his eyes. In fact, it was even clearer. At the beginning, Wang Feng still had some feelings when he looked at it, but then the dark angel martial soul throbbed. The more he looked, the faster one of the blood traces on the dark angel martial soul evolved and appeared. This made Wang Feng think that it was some kind of F***king Weisswing martial soul. However, after looking for a long time, his interest decreased a lot. It was like watching too many movies, so he didn't feel anything. when Wang Feng walked out of the room. The god of death in white is out. Someone seemed to cry out in surprise. Wang Feng casually glanced to the side. At the corner of the street, there was a man and a woman who were acting out a scene. The woman on the man seemed to feel the gaze of the god of death in white. Her face immediately flushed red. She raised her head and screamed in a high and excited voice. "Ah, it's the god of death in white. It feels so good." The man on the other side of the woman. "Bitch, F***CK, after doing it for so long, you don't feel anything like a zombie. After being looked at by him, you're so nervous that you directly threw him away?" The man was extremely angry, but he also felt deeply helpless. "Wang Feng, sorry to disturb you." Wang Feng shook his head and directly walked towards the Hell's slaughterhouse in the distance. At the same time, he thought, could this be the legendary, "Whoever you stare will be high C"? After resting for a few days and studying the dark angel martial soul, Wang Feng naturally continued to go to the Hell's slaughterhouse. However, when he was at the door, Wang Feng met two people. One was Hulaina, and the other was Xiao San. Wang Feng's footsteps paused slightly. He found that after the 10 victories, almost every battle had the figure of Xiao San and Hulaina. Obviously, he had been noticed by them. Wang Feng would occasionally go and watch the battles between the two of them. Because Hulaina's martial soul had mutated, not only was her physical fitness very strong, but she could also charm the enemy with her killing moves. Very few people could resist Hulaina's attacks. There is almost no situation like Xiao San, who cultivated the purple demon eyes to resist the charm. And that pair of eyes that could charm people's souls made Hulaina also known as the Hell's Emissary. She specialized in seducing people's souls. Not to mention Xiao San, who was now known as the Azura King in the Hell's Slaughterhouse. With hidden weapons and various Tang sect martial skills, he was extremely destructive in both one-on-one and in groups. At present, his popularity in the slaughterhouse was second only to the god of death in the slaughterhouse. Hulaina had won 71 matches, only one match behind Wang Feng. Tang San had won 70 matches, only one match behind Hulaina. However, Wang Feng and Tang San had caught up with him later. This was because the later the competition, the harder it was to arrange the schedule, because there were very few opponents to reach their level of victory. Often, it would take a few days to arrange a match. The inner city was actually very big. Wang Feng estimated that there were at least hundreds of thousands of people in this city, or even more. In fact, there were many people who came to the slaughterhouse every day. Because the god of death was too popular, there were naturally more people who came to watch. Many people did not come for anything else but to see what the god of death in white looked like. In addition, there were also people who wanted to see if there was anyone who could rush out of the hell in white and walk in front of the god of death in white. Wang Feng and the two of them passed by each other. God of death in white. At this time, Tang Xin suddenly called out to Wang Feng, "Your opponent today is very special. You may be in danger." In a chapter. Chapter 504. Wang Feng was stunned. He thought that Tang San had recognized him. Otherwise, why would he remind him? But Tang San continued to say, "You and I are similar in character. You're quite similar to a friend of mine. I hope you can survive. Even if you're going to lose, it'll be in my hands." After Tang San came to the massacre city, he rarely spoke or communicated with others. This was one of the few times that Tang San took the initiative to speak. Because this white-clothed Grim Reaper did remind Tang San of 9-1 Open and Wang Feng. Wang Feng was speechless. "Xiao San seems to be very obsessed with me." Wang Feng couldn't help but laugh in his heart. To be precise, it's an opponent called Shadowless Assassin. White-clothed Grim Reaper. This person is very powerful. He may not be attacked by you. At this time, Hulaina suddenly spoke. Wang Feng stopped in his tracks. Wang Feng had heard of Shadowless Assassin. He was a powerhouse who came in from the outside half a year ago. What was even more frightening was that Shadowless had already won 50 matches in just half a year. He even asked to take the initiative to participate in the Fallen Ones competition. He was a very famous powerhouse. He was also very good at killing people. He had very high killing skills and had very special abilities. However, Wang Feng was not very interested in these. He usually just watched the competition occasionally. Wang Feng looked at Hulaina. A year ago, he ignored Hulaina. In the past year, Hulaina did not ask for a rebuff from him. Instead, she silently watched the competition while cultivating herself. At this time, hearing what the two said, Wang Feng was a little interested. Seeing Wang Feng walk into the massacre city, Hulaina took the lead to follow. The name of the white-clothed Grim Reaper could attract countless people in the inner city, and they were all women. Although Hulaina was not as exaggerated as those flirtatious bitches, she was indeed a little curious. In addition to curiosity, Hulaina only admired him. She really admired him. What Hulaina admired most was that his temperament had not changed at all after staying in the massacre city for a year. That white robe in the massacre city was like a white flower that was not stained by the mud. It was so eye-catching and addictive. As for Hulaina herself, even though she often chatted with the stars in her skull to relieve boredom, her temperament had undergone a huge change. Although her appearance was still peerlessly beautiful, the seductive intent in her eyes when she was not fighting was like 10,000-year-old ice. Not to mention seductive, just looking at her would freeze you to death. Her temperament was also filled with killing intent. Sometimes he couldn't control himself and even wanted to go on a killing spree. Fortunately, there was Star, but because Star only had a wisp of soul consciousness left, her memories were very vague. Hulaina did not know what Star had experienced. Therefore, this was what attracted Hulaina, or perhaps all women, to this white-clothed god of death. Of course, the white-clothed death god's powerful strength and the terrifying white-clothed hell had its reasons as well. As Tang Xin watched Hulaina walk into the hell-killing field, his eyes turned slightly. As for Hulaina of the Golden Generation, his father had once said that she was the most talented and the most terrifying one. In fact, Tang Xin also thought so after watching many of Hulaina's battles over the past year. This girl was very strong. Tang Xin asked himself, if he did not have the Tang sect's martial arts and hidden weapons, he would not be Hulaina's opponent now. Moreover, she, a girl, could actually become the hell emissary in this hell-killing field with amazing battle records. Tang San was very clear on how difficult this was. After thinking for a while, Tang San followed her in. At this time, there were already tens of thousands of spectators in the hell-killing field. Most of them were women. Most of them were looking at the white-clothed god of death on the stage with wolf-like eyes. Of course, there were also about 40% of the men who were looking at the arena below with bloodthirsty eyes. Even the spectator stands were also very chaotic. Some were eating, some were performing live erotic scenes, and there were also men and men at the same time. On the rooftop of the hell-killing field, there was a room in the sky. At this time, a cold voice was heard from inside. "Great King, I have investigated clearly. This white-clothed god of death came from the north. He learned about our killing field from an old beggar. He doesn't seem to have any background. Moreover, he completely rejected the invitation of our killing field. He seems to have come here only to cultivate." In the room, there was a huge glass window in front. Because it was in midair, the scene below could be seen. There were only two people in the room. One of the silhouettes seemed to be shrouded in layers of black fog. His figure was extremely tall, and at this moment, he was sitting boldly on a wide skeleton chair. Instead, the one who spoke was another person. That cold female voice belonged to another black-clothed woman with a voluptuous figure. "Rejected," the tall man who was called King said coldly. "Yes, based on the current situation, this white-clothed god of death strength may be the strongest intruder in the history of our killing field. According to the analysis, he must have hidden part of his strength, because the strength he has shown so far is only those black sharp blades that are controlled by some unknown method. He used these black sharp blades to kill people silently." The beautiful woman held a document and continued. As for the other two people, the Azura King and the Hell's Messenger, they were thrown in by the two gods of death. We can't provoke the two gods of death, so we can only let nature take its course, although the killing field was controlled by the killing field. Once one passed the Hell's Path, it meant that one could use soul skills in the killing field and display their true strength. They were also known as the real gods of death. In the history of the killing field, only a few gods of death have been born. Every god of death was a terrifying existence. Even the killing field didn't dare to provoke them. Yes, the killing field nodded lightly. It wasn't difficult for them to find out this information. Moreover, the Azura King and the Hell's Messenger were thrown in by the two gods of death. One of them even visited the killing field a month ago. Therefore, the killing field wouldn't act rashly against Tang San and Hulaina. But this white-clothed god of death had no background. For the killing field, the martial spirit palace, and the two empires can't threaten us. The killing field said indifferently, but a god of death can. This white-clothed god of death is indeed a strong expert. It's just a matter of time for him to win 100 battles, although he may not be able to pass the Hell's Path. But if he passes it and becomes a god of death, he'll be a huge threat to our killing field. So, I have arranged an opponent for this white-clothed god of death today. The beautiful woman laughed softly. I hope he can survive. P.S. There are 4 more chapters in the evening. This chapter ends. Chapter 505. On the arena. The 10 of them had finished their preparations and were scattered around the arena. Wang Feng could also sense the shadowless assassin. It was easy to identify him. Through his senses, Wang Feng could sense the person with the weakest aura. He was dressed in black, and his face was a little pale. If he was known as the shadowless assassin, then he should be the one with the weakest aura. His aura was indeed very weak. With Wang Feng's current senses, he could only sense a trace of his aura. Apart from him, the other 9 people were all soul kings above rank 60. There were even 2 soul sages. The shadowless assassin was one of the 2 soul sages. Oh, an agility-type soul sage? Wang Fengxin was a little surprised. Normally, agility-type soul sages would be very fast, even if they didn't use soul skills and only used their soul power. These soul sages were usually very strong among their peers. As the saying went, there was no speed that couldn't be defeated. Without soul skills, everyone was fighting with their bare hands. The faster one was, the more helpless one would be. Wang Feng used the same principle to kill people. When he used his spiritual intent to control the arrows, he wasn't any slower than when he threw them out. Furthermore, because he used his spiritual intent to control the arrows, they were very agile. They wouldn't become slower and slower. It wasn't like using soul power to control the arrows. It was very troublesome to make them turn. However, it wasn't impossible to dodge them. In fact, agility-type soul sages could dodge them. When the 300 people attacked Wang Feng, there were 1 or 2 agility-type soul sages who took the opportunity to dodge Wang Feng's Xianming spike. Because they managed to dodge most of the attacks, they managed to charge past the white-clothed hell and get close to Wang Feng. However, it was a pity that they didn't last until the end. Just one agility-type soul sage. How can he be a threat to me? Wang Fengxin said there should be something special about him. At this moment, the competition started. When the competition started, the other 9 people all rushed towards Wang Feng, apart from comforting Shadowless. Those who dared to participate in the competition with the white-clothed death god were obviously extraordinary. Among them, some had only heard of his name and were unconvinced. They wanted to kill the white-clothed death god in exchange for his reputation. There were also those who were interested in killing and wanted to kill strong people. Those who were able to reach this stage had all won dozens of matches. They had participated in the competition to vent their desire to kill. As the strong, slaughtering the weak was completely unsatisfying to them. He needed to slaughter even more powerful experts. Only then would they be able to satisfy their bloodlust. Therefore, their first target was naturally the strongest white-clothed Grim Reaper. However, although these people were very powerful, they were all very powerful. But in front of Wang Feng, it was still not enough. After 3 years of non-stop training with the mysterious underworld spike, Wang Feng was now able to kill even a rank 70 soul sage without using any soul skills. He could kill them instantly. Even a rank 80 soul Douluo would be in danger of dying under the merciless attacks of 10 mysterious underworld spikes. The white-robed hell wasn't just a bluff from the people of the inner city. 10 pitch-black sharp blades less than half a meter long flew out from Wang Feng's body and started to spin in the air. Light and shadow scattered in all directions. The sharp cold light exuded the aura of death. The leader of the group was an extremely sturdy, bearded man. His martial spirit was a beast martial spirit, which had the strongest defensive power. His physique was also the strongest among the group. When a beast martial spirit was possessed by a martial spirit in the killing field, its physique would be greatly enhanced. Even if it didn't use any soul skills, it would still be very strong. On the other hand, if it was a tool martial spirit, its physique would definitely be inferior to a tool martial spirit, even though it had more weapons. Both had their advantages and disadvantages. Whoosh! At the same time, enemies from all directions charged towards Wang Feng. There was even a rare flying-type soul master. After using martial spirit possession, a pair of light wings grew from his back. He flew in the air in an attempt to avoid the white-robed hell. However, this was obviously too naive. The 60-meter radius didn't only include the ground. It also included the air. This flying-type soul master was actually very fast. His martial soul was a falcon-type martial soul that was extremely fast in the sky. Even without using any soul skills, his speed was still extremely fast. Unfortunately, the mysterious underworld spike was even faster. Furthermore, the sharp blades formed by Wang Feng's mysterious underworld spike weren't simple blades. There were 3 sharp grooves on them. If they hit, they would cause a lot of damage. 10 sharp blades flashed at the speed of a cold light and attacked the 8 people who were charging at him. Whoosh! 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 Instantly, 4 of the weaker fallen ones were hit in the vital parts by the sharp blades. Even if they didn't hit their vital parts, the sharp blades would change directions and continue to attack these fallen ones. It was very difficult to defend against them. Even if they could defend against 1 or 2 attacks, these sharp blades would attack from all directions. This required fine control of one's spiritual power. This wasn't something that could be done simply by using a martial spirit tool to kill people. It also required multiple uses. With Wang Feng's current spiritual power, it was extremely easy for him to split his spiritual power into multiple uses. In Wang Feng's mind, the positions of these 9 people had already formed a 3-dimensional image in his mind. His mind could even analyze their martial souls and strengths. How would they block his attacks? How would they dodge? Once they dodged, where would the next attack strike from? Before the competition started, Wang Feng had already started to calculate all of these when he sensed the 9 people. And when 8 of them rushed towards him, from the moment they moved, Wang Feng's brain was like a calculator. It began to calculate the movement trajectories of the 8 people, analyzing their speed and from which direction the sharp blade should attack from. After the analysis was completed in an instant, the sharp blades formed by the mysterious dark spike would attack according to the calculated possibilities, using a martial spirit tool to kill people in one strike. This seemed cool, but Wang Feng didn't know how much training he had to go through to be able to do it. Of course, this was all thanks to his brain that had been tempered by the karmic fire. The sharp blade emitted a bloodthirsty light in the air, and in just a few breaths, it had killed 4 fallen ones. Every time the cold light flashed, it was like a dancing butterfly, and it was difficult for the 2 to detect its trajectory. In the blink of an eye, one could see several fatal wounds appear on a body of fallen one. Every wound seemed to have been precisely calculated. It was like a piece of art. In other words, this massacre was a piece of art. The 8 powerhouses charged towards Wang Feng. However, when they entered the death net that Wang Feng weaved with his sharp blades, they fell one by one. They fell in the white-clothed hell that had a radius of 50 meters. The beast martial soul battle soul master who charged first wanted to grab the sharp blade. However, The sharpness of the blade was beyond his imagination. Even though his martial soul was a tortoise-type martial soul with very strong defense and had a thick layer of scales on his hand, his entire hand was cut off by the sharp blade in an instant. In a chapter. Chapter 506. You want to block the mysterious dark spike with your physical body with all kinds of defensive soul skills? Who are you looking down on? Everyone present had seen the terrifying attack of the white-clothed Grim Reaper many times, but every time they saw this magical attack method, they were amazed, because no one could do it. Because of this, the white-clothed Grim Reaper attracted countless people in the inner city. He's getting more skilled, Tang Xin thought to himself. This white-clothed Grim Reaper is growing very fast. He saw most of the matches of the white-clothed Grim Reaper clearly. Unlike the spectators who came to watch after the white-clothed Grim Reaper became famous in the inner city. As early as a year ago, Tang Xin had calculated the number of sharp blades that the opponent could control, the range, the speed, and the attack trajectory. Compared to a year ago, Tang Xin suddenly realized that the growth of the white-clothed Grim Reaper was terrifying. The number of sharp blades that the opponent could control had doubled, the attack range had doubled, and the speed was faster. The most terrifying attack trajectory was more and more unpredictable. There was no trace of it at all. This made many people who wanted to deal with the white-clothed Grim Reaper unable to find a way to deal with him, because the opponent's attack could not be dodged at all. In just a year, the opponent's cultivation growth made Tang Xin feel inferior. Tang Xin sometimes tried to use spiritual manipulation, but he found that it was almost impossible to do it. Even if he could do it, compared to the opponent who could kill with a weapon, it was like the difference between heaven and earth. However, that shadowless assassin has not made a move yet. Based on my experience of watching him in a few matches, I'm afraid his ability should be the best to restrain the white-clothed Grim Reaper. Tang Xin thought to himself. Yes, since the start of the match, the black-robed shadowless assassin had not made a move. It was as if he was waiting for something. It was only when Wang Feng finished off all 8 of them that the shadowless assassin laughed. "Thank you for helping me finish off these 8 people," he said. Wang Feng, trying to show off in front of me? Wang Feng laughed. This shadowless assassin. But laughing was one thing, this guy was still very cautious. This was because the shadowless assassin had already retreated 50 meters away. Once the sharp blade passed this distance, Wang Feng's control over the sharp blade would be greatly reduced. Its speed, agility, and so on would all be greatly reduced, making it very easy to dodge. Therefore, Wang Feng usually only controlled the area within 50 meters of himself. This shadowless assassin had clearly done his homework. Logically speaking, for someone as strong as me, I don't want to come here because it's too unfair to you all. Shadowless assassin shrugged and said with a relaxed smile, Wang Feng, however, someone told me that a white-clothed Grim Reaper has appeared here. He seems to be very powerful. That's why I came. Shadowless assassin suddenly said seriously, you still have some hidden strength, don't you? How about this? I suggest you take them all out, or you won't have another chance. Wang Feng, the shadowless assassin, seemed to have said everything he wanted to say. But as soon as shadowless assassin finished speaking, in an instant, he charged at Wang Feng. Very soon, this was the fastest soul master Wang Feng had seen this year. Furthermore, he hadn't even used martial spirit possession. There weren't any soul power undulations either. This meant that this was his original speed. He was as fast as a rank 70 agility type soul sage. If his physical speed was comparable to a rank 70 soul sage, this meant that this shadowless assassin's soul power rank was very high. His martial soul must be very strong, and he must have been very good at tempering himself. Wang Feng frowned slightly. This speed was still acceptable, but it wasn't realistic for him to dodge the sharp blades formed by the mysterious underworld spike. But it was no wonder that he was able to achieve such results in half a year. He was indeed very strong. Furthermore, this fellow waited for the 8 of them to finish off before he started to show off. In reality, he had to face the attacks of 10 mysterious underworld spikes. He was simply courting death. Why did so many people surround and attack Wang Feng back then? It was because they knew how the white-clothed Grim Reaper attacked. They wanted to use their numbers to kill him, because the white-clothed Grim Reaper could only control a few sharp blades. But it was a pity that they underestimated the lethality of the sharp blades. Now that there were 10 sharp blades, no one would be able to block them. This was because the 10 sharp blades were attacking from all directions. Tang Xin saw this scene. Even if he had the Ghost Shadow Perplexing track, he wouldn't be able to dodge 10 sharp blades that were attacking him from all directions. Furthermore, the angles were extremely tricky. But in the next moment, the shadowless assassin's legs suddenly flashed, and he disappeared from where he was. He suddenly disappeared. It was a teleportation-type soul skill. Countless people were stunned when they saw this scene. A soul master's soul skills couldn't be used in the capital of Massacre. There was only one reason why the other party could suddenly disappear. It was a soul bone. Following the disappearance of the shadowless assassin, the 10 sharp blades suddenly missed. Even in the capital of Slaughter, very few fallen ones possessed such an extremely rare item. But once one had a soul bone, it was equivalent to having an additional skill in the Massacre Hell. Furthermore, soul bones had other abilities and weren't considered soul skills. This shadowless assassin obviously had a leg soul bone, which is why he was so fast. Furthermore, he had a teleportation-type soul skill. It was indeed somewhat effective against sharp blades that could attack from all directions. It was better to say that teleportation-type soul skills were very rare, and they were very effective against any type of attack. At this moment, they were indeed able to display their greatest effect. With such speed and a teleportation-type soul skill, the shadowless assassin was able to achieve such results. But was it just teleportation? Wang Feng frowned slightly. The other party's aura had disappeared. He thought of the Umbra Academy that he met during the advancement round of the Soul Master Tournament. They had all sorts of concealment abilities, and they could use various methods to conceal their auras. This shadowless assassin was somewhat similar. His ability might not be limited to teleportation. At this moment, Wang Fengxin moved, and the shadowless assassin's figure appeared again 30 meters away. Following that, the shadowless assassin continued to attack Wang Feng. Evidently, the shadowless assassin's teleportation range wasn't very far, only 10 meters or so. But this was enough, and it meant that he could completely dodge Wang Feng's mysterious underworld spike. Even if the mysterious underworld spike attacked him again, it would be too late. Furthermore, the shadowless assassin hadn't even appeared for 2 seconds. Within 2 seconds, he had already covered more than 20 meters. Following that, he teleported again. He wasn't affected by the mysterious underworld spike at all. Many spectators felt their hearts tighten when they saw this scene. This was because it was obvious that the next time the shadowless assassin appeared, he would definitely deal a fatal blow to the white-clothed Reaper. He might be the first person to charge out of the white-clothed hell. His speed was comparable to the wind, and his powerful teleportation soul skill allowed him to perfectly dodge the white-clothed Reaper's attack with 2 teleportations. The strength of his soul bone was completely displayed at this moment. End of chapter. Chapter 507. Tang Xin had absorbed the spiritual wisdom skull. Wang Feng had given it to them when they were in the Pontus Palace. Over the past year, Tang Xin had also used the power of the soul bone once. It had to be said that the power of the soul bone was cheating in the slaughterhouse. After all, he had one more soul skill than others. Even the trashiest soul skill was much stronger. Tang Xin felt that the power of the soul bone was too strong. Hence, he would not use it unless something unexpected happened. He would only use his own strength to kill. Only in this way could he achieve the effect of training. When Wang Feng came, he had considered whether he should not use the power of the soul bone. However, after thinking about it, he realized that the mysterious underworld spike might be his weakest attack. Wang Feng was very strong, even though he was only at the first tier. Hence, he did not want to use it. Do you think I'm just trying to act cool because I'm lazy? No, I'm too strong. In a slaughterhouse, Wang Feng's 2 years of training in the extreme north, his rank 55 soul power, and his body was tempered by the red lotus karmic fire. His physique was terrifyingly strong. Of course, he was still much weaker than a titled Dalu. However, Wang Feng's spiritual senses were too strong. With such spiritual senses, he could deal with any attack. Once he attacked, he was even more powerful than using a weapon to kill people. Hence, Wang Feng only used the mysterious underworld spike to kill people in the slaughterhouse. On one hand, he wanted to cultivate the power of the mysterious underworld spike. On the other hand, Wang Feng could not find a weaker attack. Do you think I'm going to stand here and let you attack me? Right now, the white-clothed hell has been broken. Can the white-clothed death god still stand in the slaughterhouse? Countless people couldn't help but have a question mark in their minds. This was because to all the spectators, the white-clothed reaper's strongest move was to control the sharp blades to kill people and form a white-clothed hell with a radius of 50 meters around him. Hence, there is a saying that one could defeat the white-clothed death god as long as they could break through the white-clothed hell. Will he lose? Hulaina's heart tightened slightly. From the first day that this mysterious white-clothed death god had come to the capital of Massacre, he had displayed his strength without any scruples. In the following year, he had used this mysterious method to crush the entire hellish slaughterhouse. But now he finally met his match. Hulaina had some understanding of Shadowless Assassin. After all, he had achieved 50 victories in half a year. He was fortunate enough to have seen it once, but due to the other party's exaggerated speed, he guessed that the other party also had a soul bone. But he didn't expect him to have a godly skill like teleportation, and from the looks of it, he could use it continuously. Generally speaking, if a teleportation skill was too powerful, it would be difficult to use it again after using it. Wang Feng's soul-devouring Blood Wings teleportation was the same. Once he used it, he would need some time before he could use it again. For him to be able to teleport again in less than 2 seconds, there could only be a limit to the number of times he could use it. It looked like it could only be used 3 to 5 times a day, but it was enough. At this moment, the Shadowless Assassin appeared once more. He appeared behind Wang Feng, less than 10 centimeters away from him. A dagger dyed in green light had appeared in his hand at some unknown time. It was aimed at Wang Feng's neck. Seeing this, the originally quiet killing field instantly became even quieter. This was the only person they had ever seen who could get so close to the white-clothed death god. He didn't even have the chance to dodge. The next moment, Wang Feng shook his head and sighed softly. Why do you have to force me to make a move? After saying that, Wang Feng threw a punch. The dagger was only 1 centimeter away from Wang Feng's neck. Boom! This punch directly hit the Shadowless Assassin's chest. This punch was extremely fast, and the sharp sound of the air being torn apart exploded in the void. A cracking sound was heard. It was the sound of the Shadowless Assassin's chest shattering. The shattered sternum even pierced through the Shadowless Assassin's internal organs. The Shadowless Assassin was directly sent flying, drawing a parabola in the air and landing among the 8 people who were already dead. Thud! The Shadowless Assassin crashed heavily on the ground and coughed up a lot of blood, mixed with many pieces of his internal organs. In an instant, the entire field was silent. Countless people sucked in a breath of cold air as they looked at the white-clothed Grim Reaper. Isn't this too strong? Teleporting in front of you and still being able to react so quickly, the power of this punch is even stronger than those sharp blades, okay? The attacks of the sharp blades were more aimed at the vital parts of the enemy, such as the neck, the brain, the heart, and other vital parts. How could it be as terrifying as this punch? Clearly, the strength that the white-clothed death god had displayed had completely stunned everyone. How strong is this body? Even Tang San and Hulaina were so shocked that they were speechless. In the room in midair, the king of Massacre and the beautiful lady were also silent. The black-armored knight, Scott, fought with the white-clothed death god when he came in. He told me that the white-clothed death god's body is very strong too. However, I thought that he would at most have the strength of a rank 60 soul master's body. I thought that he would use some other hidden strength, but I didn't expect it to be such pure physical strength. The beautiful lady's eyes were filled with shock. King, my estimation was wrong. This person's strongest point is his physical strength, at least comparable to a soul Douluo, or even stronger. Even a soul Douluo might not be able to react in time, just now. Without using his martial soul or soul power, he has such terrifying strength. This white-clothed death god, the king of massacre, was also silent. Even he thought that the white-clothed death god's mysterious method of killing people with his weapon should be his strongest ability. Even if he had hidden his strength, he should have other methods, such as soul bones. However, he didn't expect the white-clothed death god's body to be so strong. It was precisely because of this preconceived notion that the king of massacre, as well as many of the spectators below, were astonished by the strength displayed by the white-clothed death god. However, at this moment, the shadowless assassin, who was sent flying by the punch, started laughing in the pool of blood. Seeing this, many of the spectators were stunned. Following this, they saw a terrifying scene. The blood of the 8 people on the ground suddenly surged into the shadowless assassin's body. Good. Very strong. The city of massacre hasn't had a strong person like you for a long time. The shadowless assassin slowly stood up. As he was sent flying into the pool of blood, his body was covered in blood. However, the blood quickly disappeared from the shadowless assassin's body. It was as if it had been absorbed. End of chapter. Chapter 508. Rumors can't be trusted. The shadowless assassin shook his head. He didn't seem to care. However, you can make me use my martial soul. That's enough to prove your abilities. I'm sorry, but you'd better not treat me as a human. Wang Feng was speechless. Why is this shadowless assassin even more pretentious than me? Wang Fengxian was puzzled. My martial soul is called Blood Shadow. The shadowless assassin smiled. It's my own shadow, even though I can't use soul skills. Although I can't use soul techniques, my martial soul has a special ability. It can absorb the strength of blood. It can also absorb 1/5 of the blood's owner's physical abilities. Everyone was stunned when they heard this. Martial souls indeed had innate abilities. For example, Little Three's clear sky hammer possessed frightening offensive strength. It was indestructible. Once it struck, the enemy would be flattened. For example, Hulaina's martial soul possessed a bewitching ability. It also possessed powerful self-healing abilities. These were the martial soul's innate abilities. They weren't soul skills. Every form of Wang Feng's green lotus possessed its own abilities. This shadowless assassin's martial soul, Blood Shadow, could be said to be extremely powerful. It could absorb the strength of blood and absorb 1/10 of the blood's owner's abilities. Although it was only 1/10, if it was 1/10 of a title Daluo's abilities, how frightening would that be? Once he attacked an enemy and was stained with their blood, he would possess 1/10 of their abilities. Such an ability was very frightening, whether it was in a one-on-one fight or in a group. Right now, the shadowless assassin had absorbed 8 people's abilities. Each of them was providing 1/10 of his strength. 8 people added together was a frightening number. The shadowless assassin's aura was becoming stronger at a visible speed. He was extremely powerful. In fact, his body was also expanding. That's why I have to thank you for killing these 8 people for me. The shadowless assassin laughed. After he finished speaking, the shadowless assassin attacked Wang Feng again. This time, the shadowless assassin's speed had reached a frightening level after being possessed by his martial soul. Even many soul sages could only see an afterimage. They couldn't see his trajectory at all. Wang Feng, the shadowless assassin, was around rank 79. However, his speed had already surpassed that of a rank 80 soul Dalu. Wang Feng frowned slightly. This shadowless assassin was quite strong. Just his blood shadow martial soul alone was enough to be compared to the top martial souls on the continent. However, this martial spirit had a fatal flaw. It could also be said that it was a very obvious flaw. This weakness meant that Wang Feng didn't even need to make a move before the other party would automatically die. At this moment, the shadowless assassin's speed was not inferior to Wang Feng's in first gear. He had absorbed a fifth of each of the 8 people's strength. This added up to an extremely terrifying increase in power. At this level, he could completely dodge the dark nether spike's attack. After all, Wang Feng believed that while the mysterious underworld spike was very powerful, it was only suitable for dealing with low-level soul cultivators. In other words, soul cultivators under the rank of 70 would be killed in an instant in the slaughterhouse. If he could use soul skills, he would only be able to insta-kill soul masters below rank 60. The actual situation would depend on the opponent's martial soul. Against mid-level and high-level enemies, such as those above rank 70, the mysterious underworld spike's effectiveness would be greatly reduced. This was especially true for soul masters above rank 80. If they were an agility-type soul master, they would be able to dodge Wang Feng's imperial armament with ease. Therefore, Wang Feng couldn't use the mysterious underworld spike against the shadowless assassin. Even if the shadowless assassin couldn't use his teleportation soul skills, he couldn't attack him. Wang Feng quietly stood where he was and watched as the shadowless assassin appeared beside him in the blink of an eye. Suddenly, Wang Feng tilted his body slightly and pretended to dodge. However, the shadowless assassin's dagger suddenly changed direction. It seemed to have a mechanism as it cut Wang Feng's arm. The shadowless assassin's dagger wasn't an ordinary item. It was probably a godly weapon made from some rare material. After one strike, it actually left a faint wound on Wang Feng's arm. It was a very faint wound that was as thin as a strand of hair. You could dodge it so easily. It seems like your speed and strength aren't inferior to mine. One strike and one retreat. The shadowless assassin didn't attack Wang Feng's vitals, but he didn't seem to want to continue attacking. He quickly pulled away and laughed. What a pity. You're still one move behind me. Even though I didn't attack your vitals, I was still injured. Your body is also very strong. Even my Godslayer blade can only leave a strand of hair on your skin. As he spoke, the shadowless assassin suddenly laughed. But now, I can absorb the power in your blood. I'll have a fifth of your strength. You won't have any chance with my next attack. When they heard this, many of the spectators sucked in a deep breath. The shadowless assassin was so strong that it was unreasonable. If they fought, who could stop him? As long as he was injured, the shadowless assassin would absorb the power in his blood and gain a fifth of his strength. This person is very strong. Tang Sin sighed deeply. Even though there were many restrictions in the slaughterhouse, there were still many powerful individuals. At this point in the competition, the spectators were already deeply shocked. However, in the end, the shadowless assassin showed a lot of strength, which was really shocking, especially in a 10-person battle like this. Once the shadowless assassin martial soul was used, he only needed to lightly scratch his opponent's skin, and he would instantly become stronger. The dagger in his hand is also not simple. Hulaina looked at the dagger in the shadowless assassin's hand. Obviously, with the shadowless assassin's strength, he needed a divine weapon that could break his opponent's defense. That way, he could unleash the full power of the shadowless assassin martial soul. Now, prepare to die. The shadowless assassin's eyes were bloodthirsty. He licked the blood on the dagger. The shadowless assassin's martial soul was suddenly released to absorb the power in the blood. However, at this moment, the white-clothed Grim Reaper suddenly spoke. When I was dodging just now, I could have attacked you. Do you know why I didn't? Because you're already dead. After that, the shadowless assassin's body seemed to be hit by a terrifying force. Boom! It exploded. In an instant, the whole place was dead silent. Chapter 509. The sudden explosion caused the entire audience to fall silent. Everyone looked at the shadowless assassin who had suddenly exploded on stage with astonishment. Blood fog covered everyone's vision. It had disappeared. The shadowless assassin's life aura had disappeared. The moment the white-clothed death god landed, the shadowless assassin exploded. He didn't even have time to unleash his final attack. He was gone just like that. What kind of attack was that? Deciding life and death with a single sentence? Killing with a single sentence? Wasn't that too fake? Many of the people present were dumbfounded. Was the white-clothed Grim Reaper that powerful? Was he really the Hell's Death God? He could kill someone with a single sentence? Only a true god would have such strength, right? Only a few people at the scene could vaguely guess what was going on. Wang Feng stood quietly on the stage. The shadowless assassin's blood shadow was undeniably strong. As long as he could attack his enemy, he would be able to obtain 1/5 of his enemy's strength. It was the same even for title Dalu. What a strong martial soul. However, no martial soul was perfect, no matter how strong it was. There were always flaws. For example, Wang Feng's chaotic green lotus could be very strong in every form. However, the flaw was that he couldn't use all of them at the same time to attack his enemy. He could only use one form to fight. Panga's axe was too taxing on his body and soul power. If he wasn't careful, he would be killed. Of course, these flaws weren't worth mentioning compared to the strength of his martial soul. However, since there were flaws, there were ways to overcome them. If Wang Feng dared to switch forms during a fight with a title Douluo, he would be easily attacked. It was very dangerous. The shadowless assassin's blood shadow also had a very obvious flaw. There was a limit to how much strength it could absorb. The blood shadow could absorb the strength in the enemy's blood. Even titled Douluo couldn't avoid it. In fact, 1/5 of a titled Douluo's strength could cause the shadowless assassin to explode. This was because the shadowless assassin was only a soul sage. For a soul sage to obtain 1/5 of a titled Douluo's strength, it was very difficult. Furthermore, he could only absorb 1/5 of his opponent's strength. Wang Feng's current physical strength couldn't compare to a titled Douluo's, but his body's quality was much stronger than a titled Douluo's. After being tempered by the red lotus karmic fire, Wang Feng's body was a treasure trove. It was still waiting for Wang Feng slowly uncover its abilities. If a thief wanted to steal something from his treasure trove, why didn't he take a look at his own strength and see if he could bear the weight of the treasure trove? If the shadowless assassin hadn't absorbed the blood of those 8 people, it would have been dead. However, the shadowless assassin had already absorbed the blood of the 8 people before it. Those 8 people were not weak. One was a soul sage, and the other 7 were soul emperors. Even though it was only 1/5 of the shadowless assassin's power, it was still comparable to that of a soul Douluo with so many enhancements. Now, it had absorbed the power of Wang Feng's blood. His physical body couldn't withstand such a huge amount of power. Any form of energy absorption was built on the foundation of one's own strength. Clearly, the shadowless assassin had not expected Wang Feng's body to be so powerful. Wang Feng, who looked like he was only level 55, shadowless assassin would never have guessed that Wang Feng was so powerful. Wang Feng didn't even try to attack the shadowless assassin because he knew this fatal flaw. He touched his wand. It had completely disappeared. It was as smooth as jade. Wang Feng walked to where the shadowless assassin had exploded. He picked up the dagger and focused. This dagger shouldn't be simple. It can actually cut through my skin. It was icy cold to the touch and faintly carried a murderous intent that could make one go mad. Evidently, this dagger wasn't simple. It should be a weapon forged from some special material. Although Wang Feng couldn't use it, he could use the cauldron of heaven and earth to refine it in the future. He could restore its original material or use it for other purposes. Anyway, the other party was already dead. According to the rules of the slaughterhouse, everything that was left behind after the 9 of them died belonged to the victor. No one dared to say anything even if Wang Feng took it. Furthermore, at this moment, no one present could say anything. The white-clothed death god's abilities have exceeded my expectations. The shadowless assassin absorbed the strength of 8 people. Now that it has absorbed the white-clothed death god's strength, its body won't be able to take it. Tang Sen was secretly shocked. Of course, he could analyze it. In fact, many people could see it. It was just that they were still in a state of shock and hadn't recovered yet. As long as they recovered, they would be able to figure it out. The white-clothed death god has already seen through the shadowless assassin's weakness. He did it on purpose. Hulaina was shocked from a different perspective, because this is the fastest way to get rid of the shadowless assassin. Otherwise, with the shadowless assassin absorbing the strength of 8 people, who knows how long it will take. After absorbing the strength of 8 people, the shadowless assassin was on par with Wang Feng. In terms of speed, it was slightly faster because it had the soul bone in its leg, which greatly increased its speed. If they really fought, if Wang Feng didn't use second gear, neither side would use soul skills. It would take a long time to fight. This person is too calm. At that moment, he can still see through the opponent's weakness. Hulaina muttered in her heart. The admiration in his heart increased by a few more points. It wasn't scary to be strong. The key was to be able to keep calm at all times. Hulaina asked herself as a spectator. It was reasonable to say that she could see more clearly. However, when the shadowless assassin used his martial soul, she couldn't see through the opponent's weakness so quickly. She thought that if she were to face such a situation, the only thing she could do would be to expose the power of her soul bone to fight against the opponent. She wouldn't think of such a way to get rid of the opponent effortlessly. In the battlefield, the white-clothed death god was not only strong, but his reaction was also very fast. The match was over. The white-clothed death god was still the white-clothed death god. That calm and elegant figure, that deep voice, and even stronger strength. In just a few words, the shadowless assassin, who had become famous for half a year, was annihilated. Invincible became the synonym of the white-clothed death god. Even the Azura King and Hell's Messenger, who had battle records that were not inferior to the white-clothed death god, couldn't be compared to the white-clothed death god. It seems that the shadowless assassin can't stop him. In the room, the King of Massacre's calm voice had a hint of killing intent. The gorgeous lady beside him had an ugly expression on her face. In order to deal with the white-clothed death god, they had arranged for the shadowless assassin. They were about to succeed in the end, but they didn't expect such a turn of events, although they knew the reason behind it. End of chapter. Chapter 510. King, should we find an opportunity for you to personally kill this white-clothed Grim Reaper? The beautiful lady said in a low voice. Otherwise, if this goes on, forget about the Shura King and the Hell's Emissary. If there is another white-clothed Grim Reaper, they will really be able to pass Hell's Road. Or, should we arrange the Shura King and the Hell's Emissary to fight the white-clothed Grim Reaper and let them kill each other? Just as she finished speaking, the King of Massacre snorted coldly. The beautiful lady seemed to have suffered a heavy blow. She groaned and fell to the ground. Those two cannot be touched. Do you want the city of Massacre to be bathed in blood by the 2 Grim Reapers? We have already broken the rules of the Hell's Slaughterhouse by arranging the shadowless assassin. If we deliberately arrange the Shura King and the Hell's Emissary, it will be too obvious. The King of Massacre's cold voice slowly sounded. But King, you are the rules of the city of Massacre. You can change any rules. The beautiful lady wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth and said in a low voice. The King of Massacre slowly shook his head. No need. Let them be defeated and win. At that time, they will not be able to withstand the mental disorder caused by excessive killing. At the 100th battle, they will go crazy. Even if they do not go crazy, they will not be able to pass Hell's Road now. Since the birth of the previous Grim Reaper, Hell's Road has been strengthened many times. The possibility of passing is infinitely close to 0. This is the will of God. Hearing this, the gorgeous woman was stunned for a moment. She suddenly felt a little curious. Hell's Road was the biggest secret of the city of Massacre. Other than the King of Massacre, no one knew where this place was. No one knew how terrifying Hell's Road was. At this moment, after hearing the words of the great king, The beautiful lady was secretly looking forward to the three of them winning 100 battles and becoming the champion of the slaughterhouse. Then, they would enter Hell's Road. Time slowly passed. It was another day of competition. It was already the 82nd battle. A few months had passed. Wang Feng slowly walked out of the Hell Slaughterhouse. Speaking of which, it was interesting. Since the 72nd battle, the number of people who came to kill him did not decrease. Instead, it increased. Every battle had at least 50 people. They came one after another without fear of death. It was as if they wanted to be killed by Wang Feng. This strange behavior made Wang Feng guess what was going on. Wang Feng shook his head as he looked at the many thugs rushing out from the streets. It only took a few minutes to finish off these people. As the pool of blood rolled on the ground, Wang Feng suddenly looked to the other side. Tang Xin was also standing in the distance, half supporting himself on the side of the street. There were dozens of corpses around him. Tang Xin did not suffer any injuries, but at this moment his eyes were red, his whole body was surrounded by killing intent, and he was breathing heavily. He stumbled out of the room. I've killed too many people. The killing intent has seeped into my mind. Wang Feng frowned slightly. Not only him, but it seemed that Tang San and Hulaina would also be surrounded and killed. Moreover, after every match, many people would surround and kill him. They clearly knew that they were so strong, but their numbers didn't decrease. The consequence of this was that the more people they killed, the more nervous they would be. If there was a day when he could no longer hold on, his entire body would be controlled by the killing intent, and he would become a murderous killing machine with a fuzzy consciousness. There should be someone deliberately controlling him. Wang Fengxin was slightly shocked. No one was willing to die, not to mention charging towards them like this. Not long after Tang Xin left, Wang Feng saw Hulaina being surrounded and killed by dozens of people, about 50 to 60 of them. In the past year, Hulaina's level was close to 60. Her strength had indeed become stronger. However, Hulaina was not much better than Tang San. Wang Feng stayed at the entrance of the Hell Killing Field for a while and saw Hulaina kill all those people. Her killing method was also very simple. She used charm and a short blade to directly kill the enemy. After killing, Hulaina squatted on the ground, one hand in the pool of blood, panting heavily, and her eyes were extremely red. Her whole body was trembling slightly. The killing intent was so condensed that it was almost tangible. It was like a black fog lingering around her. At least thousands of people have been killed. Wang Feng frowned secretly. Tang San was able to hold on because he had awakened the Blue-Silver Emperor and obtained the skull, which strengthened his spiritual power. It was the same for Hulaina. The Skull of Star and the mutated martial soul made Hulaina's spiritual power very strong. Moreover, she should be able to communicate with the consciousness of Star in the skull to reduce the killing intent. But even so, every subsequent match would be a test for him. The King of Massacre must have done this on purpose. Wang Fengxin thought. Obviously, the King of Massacre wanted the three of them to be controlled by the killing intent and not be able to complete the 100 matches in the end. Even the two murderous gods behind Tang San and Hulaina could not find any excuse for such a method. That was because they had come to the city of Massacre for the sake of killing. If they could not withstand the killing intent, then they could only blame their weak willpower and spirit. The King of Massacre did not kill them directly. Instead, he wanted them to die here in this way. Naturally, Wang Feng was not affected at all. However, if this continued, even if Tang San and Hulaina had strong spiritual power in the skull, they might not be able to withstand it. Everyone had their limits. We'll see when the time comes. Wang Feng frowned slightly. Little 3 also cultivates the mysterious heaven method, which is considered a righteous method. There's a big difference between his internal strength and his soul master's soul power. Thinking of this, Wang Feng could not help but be moved. His soul power was refined and compressed by the meteoric tear. The quality of his soul power was very high, but Wang Feng did not know what other uses it had. Soul power was generally related to a soul master's martial soul and the individual. A soul master with twin martial souls would generally have two different soul power attributes in his body, so he could not use them at the same time. The two soul power attributes would conflict with the body. If they were used at the same time, it was very easy for the soul master to explode under the impact of the two soul power attributes. This was probably why one could only use one martial soul's soul skill. Just like this, another year passed. Wang Feng had been in the City of Massacre for 2 years. He had also won 99 matches. In this year, Wang Feng's soul power had increased by 2 ranks and reached rank 57. The last blood pattern of the Dark Angel martial soul had not appeared. 6 had already appeared. However, he was still unable to condense the last one. Based on the different abilities of each blood pattern, Wang Feng knew that if he used the Dark Angel martial soul now, his body could form a real domain. This domain was not the domain of an ordinary titled Daluo's 9th soul skill. It was the domain of a martial soul. End of chapter. Chapter 511. However, Wang Feng didn't know the specific use of the domain because he hadn't tested it yet. Wang Feng remembered that Tang San had the Blue-Silver Emperor's Blue-Silver domain, but he didn't know if it had been awakened yet. The City of Massacre was also covered by a type of domain. Wang Feng didn't know what the domain formed by the 7 blood traces of the Dark Angel martial soul was, but it should be very strong. When the first blood trace appeared, the enemies within 100 meters of him would fall into a state of rage. Their strength would drop, and their minds would be out of control. However, it could be resisted. As long as one's mind was calm, they wouldn't be affected. Therefore, Wang Feng thought it was just a simple type of aura. It couldn't really affect others. It was just an emotional effect, but people's emotions could be avoided. A real domain was very difficult. In the 2 years in the City of Massacre, Wang Feng had made great progress by cultivating the Dark Angel martial soul and the mysterious underworld spike. The mysterious underworld spike could now control nearly 20 sharp blades, and its range had increased to about 80 meters. And with daily training, the progress was getting bigger and bigger. However, Wang Feng felt that the mysterious underworld spike's imperial equipment should be a threshold when it reached 100 meters. Wang Feng felt that his mind power could only control that far. Once it exceeded 100 meters, he might lose control completely. It wasn't that his mind power wasn't enough, but that his quality wasn't good enough. Wang Feng, who possessed a large amount of knowledge, guessed that this might require him to condense his enormous mental strength. But Wang Feng couldn't figure out the specific method. Mind power wasn't soul power. It didn't even have a basic cultivation method. It grew by itself, let alone condensing it. If Wang Feng didn't have the meteoric tear, he wouldn't be able to condense and purify his soul power. His mind power couldn't be used by the meteoric tear. I wonder how Xiao San and Hulaina are doing. Wang Feng frowned slightly. The last match would take a long time to prepare. There was no news for half a month. The last 20 matches would take longer to prepare. There were only 2 or 3 matches a month, or even 1 match a month. Wang Feng remembered that in the 95th match, Tang San had already reached his limit, but fortunately, he was able to control it in time. Hulaina was about the same. According to Wang Feng's calculations, the number of people who died in their hands was probably as high as 10,000. Perhaps this wasn't a huge number for the City of Massacres, but it was a terrifying number for any soul master. Wang Feng used the mysterious dark spike to kill even more. Normally, if a normal person were to kill 100 people, their mental state would be severely affected. As a soul master, his spiritual power was even stronger. Killing 1,000 people was something he could endure. However, even with Tang San and Hulaina's special abilities, it was still difficult for them to bear with tens of thousands of people. The King of Massacre's method is rather effective. Wang Feng thought to himself, why were so few people able to last more than 100 rounds? Strength was one aspect, but more importantly, it was difficult to control this kind of killing intent. Even if you stayed in the City of Slaughter and didn't kill often, you would be infected by the aura here and gradually lose yourself. Not to mention those experts who had taken countless lives. The more he killed, the stronger his killing intent, and the easier it was for him to suffer a backlash. Why was the white-clothed death god able to make countless women in the inner city go crazy over him? The biggest reason was that the white-clothed death god's aura was incomparably pure, causing people to go crazy over him. In the capital of slaughter, Wang Feng's pure aura had attracted not only the females, but many experts as well. No matter how much Wang Feng tried to restrain his aura, it was useless. After his body was refined by the red lotus, it was almost natural. It was impossible to restrain his aura. This was the result of Wang Feng covering himself completely. If Wang Feng took off his mask and revealed a little of his appearance, Wang Feng was afraid that these people would swarm over him if he walked out. This was how handsome people were. There were even people who were willing to be slaves and stay by Wang Feng's side. Their purpose was to get closer to Wang Feng and let Wang Feng's pure aura suppress the boiling killing intent in their bodies. Wang Feng naturally refused. What a joke. He had the mysterious dark spike, so he didn't need any slaves. Actually, there was another way to calm these people who couldn't control their killing intent. That was Bloody Mary, human blood. As long as they drank this type of Bloody Mary, they could slightly suppress the killing intent in their bodies. However, this thing was poison. The more they drank it, the more addicted they would be to it. In the end, they couldn't leave it all. Wang Feng could roughly guess the result of this situation. Tang San and Hulaina didn't drink it, because the two of them also saw the clues. They knew that if they drank this kind of thing, they might not be able to quit. It would be more troublesome then. Today seems to be the last day, right? Wang Feng thought quietly. He walked out the door. The air was still filled with a rotten aura. His white robe was otherworldly, and his aura was clear. The short blades formed by the mysterious dark spike surrounded him. The moment he walked out, several men and women ran over and knelt more than 10 meters away. Their bodies were still trembling slightly, and their eyes were red. White-clothed death god, please take us in. We are willing to listen to everything you say in the city of slaughter, as long as you let us stay 3 meters, no, 5 meters away from you. Their eyes were full of desire. These people had lived in the city of slaughter for more than 10 years and were on the verge of collapse. Simple indulgence could no longer relieve the killing intent in their bodies. They didn't know how much Bloody Mary they drank, but the effect was very little. Wang Feng didn't even look at them. He didn't know how many such things he encountered every day. After Wang Feng left, those people panted violently. Then, they roared like wild beasts and began to fight on the street. In the end, they fell to the ground. This was the end of the fallen in the city of slaughter. Even if they could avoid being killed by others, they couldn't escape this result. He came to the slaughter field. Before he even reached the entrance, many onlookers had already rushed out from inside, their faces filled with fear. As soon as he entered, Wang Feng frowned. The strong smell of blood. In the slaughter field, Tang San and Hulaina were like two ghostly silhouettes, crazily slaughtering inside. Their eyes were pure blood red. The killing intent on their bodies had already condensed to the point that it was solid. They almost killed anyone they saw. The two didn't meet each other because the slaughter field was very big and there were many people. In the slaughter field, there were shrill screams that constantly sounded. Many of them were spectators on the spectator stands. They just came to watch, but they were all killed by the two. Wang Feng glanced at them and knew that the two must have just finished participating in the competition. They couldn't control their killing intent anymore. Wang Feng didn't know how many people they killed in the city of slaughter in the original work, but it was definitely not as many as now. Tens of thousands of people, this was no joke. In a chapter. Chapter 512. If this goes on, I'm afraid these two will become lunatics who only know how to kill. It seems like this match is their limit. Wang Feng suddenly looked at the sky. He could clearly see that there was a floating room above them. It seemed like there were two pairs of eyes staring at this place. A few days ago, Wang Feng noticed that Tang San and Hulaina might have reached their limit. At the same time, in the floating room, Lord, these two people's willpower is very strong. The woman in black whispered, under our control, they killed more than 10,000 people. In the last match, they couldn't hold on at all. The previous killing gods didn't kill so many people even after winning 100 matches. 7,000 people is their limit. Unfortunately, if this continues, the only result will be death from exhaustion. Their minds are already on the verge of collapse. A chuckle sounded from the woman in black. Only this white-clothed death god is really strange. The number of people he killed will only be more than these two people. But now he is completely fine. As if she saw Wang Feng's figure, the woman in black shook her head and said, "King, in the history of the City of Slaughter, did such a person exist? In the City of Slaughter, one would be affected. As the number of people killed increased, the effect would be deeper. Even the King of Slaughter was the same. The City of Slaughter had a history of over 1,000 years. However, the King of Slaughter had changed many times." The King of Slaughter shook his head slightly. This white-clothed death god could be said to be the most mysterious Hell Mode 100 victory champion in the City of Slaughter. In the past, most of the people who reached the 100 victory champion were controlled by their killing intent. A small number of people were not controlled and barely had enough strength to enter the Hell Mode. However, they could not last long. However, only this white-clothed death god's aura did not change at all. In this City of Slaughter, he was very special. It was as if the number of people he killed was not important to him. The King of Slaughter had stayed here for so many years. This was the first time he saw such a mysterious person. Theoretically speaking, this was impossible, unless the other party had reached the realm where he could completely control his killing intent. However, even if that was the case, his aura could not be so pure. However, only he is left. He is not a big threat to us, the woman in black said with a smile. But just as she said that, she suddenly froze. This was because she suddenly saw the god of death in white walking toward Tang San and Hulaina, who were already in a semi-crazy state. What is he trying to do? The King of Massacre's face darkened. They are rivals. Could it be that this white-robed death god wants to save them? Impossible. The white-clothed Grim Reaper doesn't know them at all. Dream on. In this state, the Azura King and the Hell's Emissary cannot be saved. Even Bloody Mary will have no effect on them. Unless you personally take action, the woman in black sneered. I think he wants to take care of those two. However, those two are currently controlled by killing intent. It won't be easy to take care of them. At that time, he will be besieged by the two of them. He would only be courting death if he went. The Azura King and the Hell's Emissary were naturally very strong. Both of them were 100-win champions. Moreover, under such circumstances, both of them were even more powerful than usual. In the killing field, Wang Feng took the lead to approach Tang San, who was the closest to him. At this time, Tang San, who was in a killing frenzy, was still glowing with a faint blue light. Blue-silver domain? Did he just awaken? Wang Fengxin was shocked. He looked at Tang San and found that Tang San's eyes were bloodshot. Although Little 3 is controlled by this killing intent, his soul consciousness should still be awake. It's just that he can't control his body. After 2 years of high-intensity killing, killing has become an instinct. Wang Feng shook his head. His hand moved like lightning as he grabbed Tang San's shoulder. Waves of pure soul force slowly flowed into Tang San's hand. Very quickly, Wang Feng's movements came to a halt the moment he neared Tang San. The blood in his eyes was quickly controlled by Little 3. Under Wang Feng's robe, a blood mark engraved on his body lit up slightly, absorbing the killing intent on Tang San's body at this time. In the current state of these two people, he couldn't just wake them up with the aura he emitted. They were in a state where they were completely controlled by the killing intent, and not in a state where they were not controlled before. Naturally, Wang Feng used the 7 blood marks attached to the Dark Angel Martial Soul to secretly absorb the killing intent on Tang San's body. After only a moment, the killing intent on Tang San's body flowed out like a tide, but Wang Feng didn't completely absorb it. He only absorbed the part that Tang San could withstand. Soon, Tang San stopped. He had just regained consciousness. He suddenly used both hands to support himself on the pillar and gasped for breath. Wang Feng quickly walked to the other side of Hulaina. Hulaina's situation was similar to Tang San's. She had the star skull and didn't even suffer any injuries at this time, but her eyes were unconsciously killing. Wang Feng grabbed Hulaina's shoulders and used the blood mark to absorb the killing intent on Hulaina's body. Wang Feng found that although his blood mark was activated, it could still absorb all kinds of aura in the massacre city and hadn't reached a state of saturation. As Wang Feng used the blood mark to absorb a part of Hulaina's killing intent, coupled with the pure aura on Wang Feng's body, Hulaina gradually calmed down. She leaned on the pillar next to her with a dazed look in her eyes, as if she was recalling something. When Wang Feng arrived, they had already been in this state for some time. To be precise, after completing 100 rounds today, they couldn't suppress the killing intent at all and erupted. At this time, the King of Massacre and the woman in black in the room were shocked. Impossible, how'd he do it? Although he emitted a pure aura that could slightly drive away the killing intent on others, these two people were completely controlled by the killing intent. It's impossible to use aura to wake them up. The woman in black said in disbelief. It's absorption. The King of Massacre slowly revealed two fangs. This white god of death has the ability to absorb killing intent. No wonder he's not affected by the massacre city. He sensed it very clearly. The killing intent on King Azura and the Hell's emissary had disappeared. Otherwise, they couldn't have woken up so quickly. Absorbing killing intent? The woman in black was shocked. Did the absorbed killing intent disappear? Even if it's used for cultivation, killing intent will affect one's spirit and soul. How come there's no change at all? The King of Massacre didn't know about this. Killing intent was a mystery within a mystery. It was a seemingly invisible but tangible force. He had never heard of anyone who could absorb killing intent for cultivation. It was good enough to be able to control the killing intent, let alone being unaffected when used for cultivation. Unless it was a god. P.S. There are 3 or 4 more chapters in the evening. This chapter ends. Chapter 513. At this time, on the killing field, Tang San and Hulaina slowly woke up. Tang San's spiritual power was stronger than Hulaina's, so he woke up the fastest. As Wang Feng expected, although Tang San was controlled by the desire to kill just now, he still remembered it very clearly. After this last match, after killing 9 people, Tang San could not control the killing intent that he had accumulated for 2 years. Even the last few months, Tang San almost did not cultivate. Every day, he forced his mind to control this killing intent. In the first 2 matches, Tang San felt that he had reached his limit, but he still relied on his tenacious willpower to hold on. But in the last match, the 9 people were full of strong killing intent. After Tang San killed them, the huge killing intent on the 9 people almost instantly broke through the killing intent that Tang San had controlled for 2 years. The terrifying killing intent was like a flood that rushed into his soul and spirit crazily, causing him to fall into a state of killing intent rampage. It was the same for Hulaina. In the first 2 matches, she even relied on the consciousness of the stars in her soul bone to barely wake up. But in the last match, it was really not a matter of whether she could hold on or not. The call of the stars did not have any effect. One had to know that every time one killed someone, the killing intent on that person would accumulate in one's body. So the more one killed, the more killing intent accumulated in one's body. The 9 people in the last match were not simple. In fact, before this, Hulaina wanted to find the white-clothed Grim Reaper because the aura on his body was really effective. One time, she accidentally passed by the white-clothed Grim Reaper and instantly felt much more awake. After all, she knew that the white-clothed Grim Reaper was special a year ago. But later, she thought that the white-clothed Grim Reaper was 1,000 miles away and did not care about her 2 years ago. It had nothing to do with her. Hulaina did not want to ask for a rebuff, so she gave up, and the Azura King's martial soul was the clear sky hammer. Although it was a little stronger than her, It could not completely avoid this situation, so she did not think about it. At this time, Hulaina, who was sweating profusely, took in a deep breath of fresh air. The clarity of her mind made her feel relieved. Although the killing intent was still there, it was much smaller. It was completely within the range that Hulaina could bear, and it would not be as violent as before. He saved me. Hulaina's black attire clung tightly to her graceful body due to her sweat, revealing her perfect figure vividly. Her fair skin was oozing with sparkling and translucent beads of sweat. Her hair, which was originally tied up, was also stained with blood due to the crazy slaughter just now. It stuck to her cheeks and neck, making her look a little demonic. His entire body was emitting waves of heat. After resting for a while, Hulaina looked at the Azura King again. She found that the Azura King had completely recovered. She was slightly surprised. This Azura King was indeed very powerful. Its mental strength should be higher than hers. Due to the mutation of her martial soul, her spiritual power had been greatly enhanced. Now that she had obtained a star-type soul bone, her spiritual power had also been greatly enhanced. Although Xingxing only had a 20,000-year cultivation, she had already gained intelligence. Her spiritual power was much stronger than that of a 20,000-year soul beast. Due to all these reasons, Hulaina's spiritual power had reached an unbelievable level. In terms of spiritual power, she was not inferior to a soul, Douluo. Why did the white-clothed Grim Reaper save me and the Azura King? Hulaina looked at the white-clothed Grim Reaper. Not to mention what happened 2 years ago, she had been secretly observing the situation for the past 2 years. Not many people had appeared within 30 meters of the white-clothed Grim Reaper. No one was allowed to come close. Not to mention saving people, it was already good enough that he did not kill anyone. This had nothing to do with them. Why did he save them? Could it be because of the Hell Road? Or because of the King of Massacre? Hulaina was shocked. She was very clear that the reason why the 3 of them had killed so many people over the past 2 years was because someone had arranged it in secret. Otherwise, with the strength of the 3 of them, no one would be so stupid as to be willing to seek death by besieging them. It was because they had killed so many people that she and the Azura King were unable to control their killing intent in the end. All this meant that someone wanted them to die in secret, but didn't want to do it himself. In the city of Massacre, only the King of Massacre would be able to do something like this. If the Azura King and I are not dead, the King of Massacre will have some scruples. The Hell Road is even more dangerous. If the 3 of us go through it together, the success rate will be much higher. Could it be that he wants to borrow the strength of the Azura King and me? As she thought of this, Hulaina's heart skipped a beat. If that's the case, he does have a motive to save us. However, no matter how much I think about it, I'll just ask him directly. At this moment, Tang Sen also looked at Hulaina. Evidently, he had thought of this too. Otherwise, why would the white-clothed Grim Reaper save them for no reason? Hulaina walked 5 meters away from the white-clothed Grim Reaper. This was the second time in 2 years that Hulaina was so close to the white-clothed Grim Reaper. The moment Hulaina walked to the white-clothed Grim Reaper's side, she had the urge to continue moving closer. It was too comfortable. That feeling was as if she had returned to the primitive forest and breathed in the fresh air. There was no part of her body that was uncomfortable. It was also as if she was bathing in the gentle sunlight. With a gentle breeze, waves of warmth gushed out from her body, dispelling the cold, murderous intent in her heart. Hulaina was slightly shocked. Last time, she only pretended to be passing by, so she didn't feel it clearly. Now that she was even closer to the white-clothed Grim Reaper, the comfortable feeling made her want to cry out. In fact, if an ordinary person stayed by Wang Feng's side, Hulaina would not feel as exaggerated as she did. At most, she would feel quite comfortable. However, Hulaina and Tang San had stayed in the city of Massacre for too long. They were deeply affected by the increasingly strong murderous intent and various negative emotions. Their minds had been tense all this time. That was why they felt so strongly. It was like a person who was tired from the day going to take a bath. It was extremely comfortable. However, a person who was not tired from the day would not feel so comfortable taking a bath. Where did this white-clothed Grim Reaper come from? No wonder those women in the inner city went crazy for him. Even many men are willing to be slaves and stay by his side. The aura on his body is even more powerful than the peerless masters who have achieved the oneness of heaven and man in my previous life. Tang San was also extremely shocked. In the world of his previous life, there was a legendary martial Dao master who had achieved the oneness of heaven and man. He had many magical abilities that could change the vitality of the world and make the people around him calm down. This white-clothed Grim Reaper seemed to be even more powerful. Was it innate, or did he have a special ability? Thank you, Hulaina said in a low voice as she greedily breathed in the clear aura. You're welcome. Wang Feng shook his head lightly. 2 years ago, you warned the shadowless assassin. Let's call it even. Hearing that, both of them were stunned. Chapter 514. Could it be that you saved us because of this? Hulaina and Tang San were a little shocked. Back then, they were just casually mentioning it. They didn't expect the Grim Reaper to remember it so clearly. And just because of such a small matter? Hulaina looked at the Grim Reaper suspiciously. Tang San was also a little bewildered. Just because I reminded him back then he would save me? Although it made sense, he still felt that it was a little off. At this moment, as the two recovered, a figure slowly descended from midair. It was a tall man. The cape on his back was like wings fluttering in the air. His appearance was ordinary. His face was very pale, and his pupils were blood red. His body was suffused with a cold and fishy aura. This aura was similar to the smell of Bloody Mary, but it smelled better. The King of Massacre. Seeing this person, the three of them thought of this word. The supreme person who controlled the capital of Massacre had the strength of a tidal Douluo. The King of Massacre slowly descended on the high platform of the massacre field. He stared at the three people below and slowly said, "Congratulations to the three of you for winning the 100 Victory Championship of the Massacre Field. Very good. It has been a long time since the capital of Massacre had a 100 Victory Champion. I didn't expect three of them to appear the same time and to be able to survive." At this point, the King of Massacre glanced at the three of them. His last sentence was a little strange. Wang Feng also sensed this King of Massacre and thought to himself, this should be Little San's great-grandfather, right? But now, he should have lost his mind in the capital of Massacre and can't remember anyone. Otherwise, logically speaking, when Little San used the clear sky hammer, he should have recognized him. Next, you have two choices. One is to continue challenging the road to hell. The other is to become a guest elder of the capital of Massacre. I can give you the title of Grim Reaper and allow you to enter the capital of Massacre as you wish. The King of Massacre said indifferently. There was actually not much to choose. Since they had come to the capital of Massacre, if they didn't challenge the road to hell, what was the point? I advise you to think carefully before you choose. A cold light flashed in the King of Slaughter's eyes. Before you, there were already several hundred wind champions who had fallen on the Hell Road. None of them were weaker than you. If what the King of Massacre said was true, it was indeed very difficult for each of the champions to persist until now. Their strength was really not much inferior to Tang San and Hulaina. However, Tang San and Hulaina did not hesitate and walked directly to the center. A strange light flashed in Wang Feng's eyes. This King of Massacre couldn't be thinking of attacking him, right? But if he really wanted to fight, he probably wouldn't use that kind of move. Wang Feng did not hesitate and walked to the center. Seeing this, a strange smile appeared on the King of Massacre's face. Very good. Then, I wish you good luck. The King of Massacre's smile inexplicably shocked Tang San and Hulaina. Even Wang Feng felt that something was off. Could it be that this Hell's Road was very different? Wang Feng was not very familiar with the Hell's Road in the original work. Wang Feng did not even remember the city of Massacre clearly, let alone the Hell's Road. However, in the original work, Tang San and Hulaina could make it out. Logically speaking, it was even more impossible for him to make it out. Until now, Wang Feng had not heard the sound of the system punching in. This meant that the punching location should be at the Hell's Road in the City of Massacre. It could be at the destination. When the King of Massacre finished speaking, his body trembled slightly. Suddenly, a red light was emitted from his body and scattered in all directions. Wherever the scarlet light spread, all the slaughtered corpses in the massacre field suddenly burst out with blood. They were quickly sucked dry and flowed into the entire Hell's Massacre field. These corpses were all killed by Tang San, and Hulain is right just now. Even the remaining fallen ones seemed to have lost consciousness. They fell into a special state and directly killed themselves. The entire Hell's Massacre field flowed with endless blood and gathered on the ground under the three people's feet. Lights slowly lit up from the ground. A huge blood-colored bat pattern appeared on the ground. The moment this mass appeared, the three people's consciousness shook and were enveloped by countless blood-colored light. This blood-colored light seemed to have great energy. The moment it rushed toward the three people, Tang San and Hulaina's bodies automatically produced a mist condensed from killing intent and shrouded them respectively. There was also a layer of blue light on Tang San's body to resist this blood-colored light. However, Wang Feng was not affected at all. A teleportation array? Wang Fengxin said, "I've never seen a teleportation array in the Douluo world, but this feels quite similar. It's using this blood as the key to activate it." As the blood-colored light flashed, Wang Feng's vision and perception also fell into nothingness. He could not sense anything. After an unknown period of time, the light slowly dissipated, and his perception slowly returned to his body. That blood-colored light is a good nourishment. Wang Feng's perception returned, and he thought to himself, it can strengthen the blood traces. Cultivating one usually may not have such an effect. The evil and icy aura in the blood-colored light will probably have a great impact on soul masters, and the killing intent on their bodies can slightly resist this blood-colored light. However, this blood-colored light was useless against him. Tang San also awakened the blue-silver domain, which could also resist the blood-colored light. Hulaina's skull also emitted a pale pink light. In addition to her own killing intent, it could also resist the blood-colored light. Obviously, it was the soul skill in Hulaina's skull and the protection of Star's consciousness. Tang San was the first to wake up. Then Hulaina also woke up. Coupled with the fact that she was still beside Wang Feng, it could be said that she woke up very quickly. When the two of them woke up, they began to look around. Wang Feng also looked around. They were on a platform that could only accommodate more than 10 people. Other than that, there was nothing else. The surroundings were suffused with a blood-red light, and a faint smell of blood floated in the air. It was still the same smell as Bloody Mary, and this smell of blood floated from below the platform. This platform was actually floating in midair. There was a lot of thick fog below the platform, and they couldn't see what was below, only bursts of red light flashing. In front of the platform, there was only a long path. This path could only accommodate one person, and it was also floating in midair. There was no point of support below. It looked like the only small path above the bloody abyss. For a moment, the three of them were silent. "Let's work together." Hulaina's voice was slightly gentle. Her gaze first fell on Tang San, then on Wang Feng. This place also has the same domain as the City of Massacre. The path ahead can only be passed by one person. If we kill each other, no one may be able to pass through. Moreover, there are no personal grudges between the three of us, excluding the factions we belong to. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.